Welcome back to the Fighters Corner podcast. John, I think we got a special guest with us today.
We do.
Chris Lytle. What's up, Chris?
What's happening, guys? Thanks for having me here.
You know, we really appreciate you coming in, man. Like, all BS aside, this is pretty significant.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this.
Yeah,
Real excited for this.
So we're going to do a deep dive. And, you know, when you got somebody like Chris in the studio, we try to get a little micro, and we're going to apologize ahead of time. Because
going in deep on this.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Right,
if
so
I started in 1998, long time ago.
Yeah, big nerd alert. So, we're going to start with, like, your beginnings, fights in Japan.
Sure.
What you're working on now.
Yeah, what you're working on and stuff like that. So.
All kinds of stuff. Yeah, I remember when I first started, obviously, I started kind of trying to think January to February of 1998. Sport was brand new. It wasn't even the same sport. I'm sure you know.
Yeah, it was.
Was there an amateur career or no?
Not really. I mean, back then they didn't even really differentiate. I remember my first fight I didn't get paid, so I guess that was my amateur career. But my second fight, I got paid.
Okay,
so.
How many fights did you have that are not on your record? From
Probably 15. The bitch of the thing is every one of them's a win.
You won.
I didn't lose one.
It's okay.
All right.
I don't doubt you, but I've heard a lot of people say that don't have your background.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, the first fight they had me on, I think I'm fighting in Japan, I believe. And I'm like 10-0. Yeah, and I'm like, I was 0-0. I'm like, I was like 10-0. They didn't just send me to Japan. I had to beat a lot of people, but, they went back and took away all those wins because it wasn't in a sanctioning body.
Were they on there at one point, though?
I don't even know if they were on there, but, because this was like, in the 90s. So it was before really the internet was super big.
Sure.
But, I mean, I know whatever. I think there was a couple that were on there that are not on there now because, they went back to and said, no, there's no sanctioning body. They don't count. Whatever. I got paid. It counts.
Right. And you won. Yeah. And if you would have lost, it would have counted. Yeah.
I mean, it still counted to me. And like I said, I remember after fighting in Japan, coming back and he doing like an 8-man tournament where I won all of them in the first round real quick. It was easy. Got like $1,000. I was so happy. Like 3 fights in one night, and none of those were on my record. So
where was this at?
That was in Indianapolis at the Adams Mark Hotel. I mean, it was like right by the airport, and they just had a little tournament. I remember I'd already fought in Japan, and all these other guys were, wearing cutoff jeans and just kind of new. Yeah. So it was just like none of them went past a couple minutes, and it was awesome. Then my buddy Jason Godsey, he showed up, and they like, that's that guy. He fights in Pancrase. Then they all backed out of the tournament. He got paid $500. Didn't even have to fight.
Now, like, in terms of, like, fighters and stuff like that, you're pretty laid back.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, when you meet certain people, like, we're going to have Coleman in later on next month. Like, you meet him, you're like, yeah, that guy's, he's fighting either in the cage or in the bar or whatever. Seasoned. You seem like kind of taking the opposite approach. So what was your motivation to get in there?
When I first started, I was a wrestler in high school, state runner-up in Indiana. And so I had a wrestling background, and a lot of people don't really realize that. And then, when you get out of high school, college, there's really no avenue to do anything right there. There's no, unless you want to go continue to do that wrestling, which I didn't want to do. And there's really no avenue to do much with that competitive nature. But, I still enjoyed that aspect of it, but there was nothing else to do. And somebody introduced me to, they called it shoot fighting. I'm like, what is shoot fighting? Like, that's kind of like wrestling, but you can punch people too. And I was like, we'll try this out. And I went there and immediately.
And where was it at?
It was in Indianapolis.
Okay.
But immediately.
Who was the promoter?
No, this was just a gym. A guy named Aaron Sullivan. And my friend his name was Eric, and he got me into. He wrestled with me in school, and so I start doing that, and immediately, like, I realized the guys there weren't very good at wrestling, So I was already better than them at wrestling. I had to learn the submission holds, and after a couple of weeks, I knew enough to stay out of their moves, and was starting to beat them. I'm thinking, man, these were like big, strong,
seasoned
men,
guys.
And just like bikers with tattoos and all that. And I was like, I'm starting to beat them pretty quick. And I'm thinking, man, this is kind of fun. Then I go watch a fight that they put on, and I was like, I got to at least try this. I got to do it once. And then I trained for another couple months, and they got me a fight in Richmond, Indiana. Man, this is straight out of like Fight Club. You go in there. It was down the basement of
Roadhouse.
Yeah. It was in the basement, and there was like, it was real dark, and like you could see water dripping and stuff. There might have been a chicken runner. I don't know, but like the cage, you literally had to like hold it up. And
please, Chris, don't slam your guy against this wall.
Well, it wasn't necessarily like the big heavy guys like, oh my god, but it was a fight like that, and I remember I won my fight, and I was like, okay, I gotta keep doing this, So just started really taking it serious after that.
So, how did you transition to Japan? Like, what was your introduction?
I remember coming to that first fight. I've been training, like I said, with Jason Gatsy.
Who was the founder of Integrated Fighting?
Yes, and he was the big name. He'd been going to Japan a lot then, and he'd been fighting. He'd beat Yuki Kondo, the first guy to do that. And he was like right in line for the King of Pancrase. And so I was like, man, this guy, he was a big heavyweight, just better than everybody, but he was like kind of the leader of the group. And so I remember when at my first fight, he's like, "Yeah, I'm having Phyllis come," and Phyllis Lee, and she was pretty much was the only connection to get into Japan if you want to go,
and the UFC
at the time. She was. Now, if you guys don't know who she is, if you watch UFC 4 when Dan Severn's there, she's the old lady like banging on the cage or whatever. That was his manager too.
How was your dealings with Phyllis?
So like when she first came to the thing, I was super excited, because I was like, oh man, I got this.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, I got this lady. She's the matchmaker, or not the matchmaker. She's the connection to get to Japan and open all these doors, and she's coming to my fight. So it was a big deal. Now, whenever I was there, she was always nothing but super nice to me. She liked me. I went there and come to find out, well, of course she liked me. I was really helping her out. You know what I mean? Like when I would go to Japan,
they'd pay her.
No, first of all, yes, and they would say, she'd always say this, like, "Oh, Chris, they want you to come fight again. They're not going to send you a corner man, though. They're bringing me over, though. I'm going to go." And it took me about a year before I figured out, hold on a second, she's taking my corner man pass. You know what I mean? Her flight should be my corner man's flight. So I would go over there, and I would have like a Japanese guy corner me who didn't speak English.
It's good for a stool of water.
It didn't matter. It was like 1 15-minute round. Like, what are they going to say anyway? But it was just different. 1 15-minute round, that sucked. If you've never done that,
I can imagine.
it was brutal. And there was no weight classes. So even there wouldn't. All they had to do was give me water between rounds, but there was no rounds, so it was just, I had no cornerman.
How many Americans were over there with you at that time?
There would be different each time, Sometimes there'd be a couple Americans. Sometimes I'd be over there. There was no Americans. It just depended on every fight.
Now, why didn't you ever fight in Pride? It seemed like, you were kind of a name over there.
Well, here's the thing. When you go to Japan, they don't mix and match very well. When you're in that organization, you're in that organization. Okay. If you jump over the other one, it's kind of a huge slap in their face. They are huge on loyalty, and they don't really take kindly to that. Now, later towards the very end, when Pancrase started to kind of fall apart, and some of the fighters like
bouncing checks.
Yeah, well, not that, but like the fighters there, if you were a fighter for Pancrase and you were like Japanese, they gave you like a salary. Like that's who you fought for exclusively, and like they let you live in their place.
Yeah, a lot of them live together. Yeah.
I mean, it was like a job. It wasn't like you got a salary to be there. You worked for that company, so it wasn't the same as you just didn't go fight for another company. So that towards the end when things started falling apart, then they started moving over because they were getting squeezed out. They were the biggest promotion. Then when Pride came, it started to take into that.
Kabara, yeah.
And then especially when like Pride, I go to Pancrase and we have maybe a big event, have 5,000 people at it. I would go to Pride, but some of my people were fighting, there'd be 20,000. It's a big difference.
Weird? Yeah, it's weird, right?
Well, they had a lot of Yakuza money and they were getting big names from all over the place.
Thing as the mob.
Yeah,
that's true. The Yakuza's different. Separate but equal.
They say it was Yakuza, but it really wasn't.
Yeah, whatever. It was just people with missing fingers doing these things,
strange tattoos that you can only get in certain areas.
Yeah. So they were putting on these fights, and there was a lot of money. I don't think they care if they won or lost money as far as, it was just to put on this event.
All right, so now with Pride, the one thing with Pride is always the brutal fights and the high-end competition, but a lot of times people always talk about, like, fixed matches, which obviously happens.
There was a few.
What about in Pancrase?
Were
you ever approached with something?
I was never approached about that, and to my knowledge, I've never heard there being one there. I wouldn't be surprised, because here's the weird thing. People don't understand, like, pro wrestling and fighting were very closely connected in Japan. You would have professional fighters who might do pro wrestling and vice versa.
Even on the same card.
Yeah, it was just nuts. But, I was never approached by that. I never heard anything about that there. To say that didn't happen, though, I couldn't say that. Who knows? Like I said, it's very intertwined. As far as Pride, I'm pretty sure it did happen there.
Oh, I think that goes without saying.
Yeah.
That's pretty confirmed.
Yeah. I can think of a couple fights. So, But it was just that the two organizations were very different with how they were ran, and like I said, one was it was your job. You fought for that company. You lived with them. You trained with them. That was it. Pride was more of a UFC style.
You took orders.
Yeah.
How was the reception in the locker room for you? I mean, at that time, it was just so...
Man, it's funny when you go to Japan, like, nobody really says anything to you,
Even the audience.
I know, like you can hear yourself breathing in the fights. It's so awkward. Like, and then all of a sudden, like, something happens and they cheer, and then it's quiet again. So, but like even in the locker room, like nobody's super friendly unless you've been there a couple of times. The more you go there, the more they get to know you. Then they'll open up to you a little bit. But man, I spent like a month there and stayed in the gym. I didn't get to know the people very well. Most of them can't speak English when I was there. I mean, the younger guys, the older guys, they could, and I talked to them a little bit. But they have this thing where they don't want to speak. They like feel like they're dishonoring themselves if they get it wrong. Like, you speak way better than I do.
Yeah.
I don't speak very little Japanese. It was tough.
Mm-hmm. And then hook and shoot. You went from pancrase and you had a few fights in hook and shoot. And that was like the early days.
I mean, like I said, back then I would do both. I mean, even in any organization, nobody put on enough fights to just have you there exclusively. So, like, if I was fighting, even if you fight in UFC, pancrase, whatever, like, you had an open contract. You could fight wherever. So I would fight in hook and shoot. I would fight in, little promotions around whatever who would pay you. And
it was non-exclusive, right?
Yeah, that's why I had a lot of fights at the beginning part. It wasn't like 3 times a year. It was like 8 times a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think Jeff Osborne, I think he needs to get a little bit more credit for his contribution towards.
I mean, people don't realize, hook and shoot was probably one of the top 3 organizations in the country.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the UFC, hook and shoot, and then there was a bunch of other ones.
King of the Cage.
Yeah, and then you had some other ones that would like come and go.
WEF.
Yeah. I mean, but like
IFC. Yep.
And that was another thing. It was like this little place in Evansville, Indiana, and look at the who's who had fought there.
And the people that
were O'Gara fight there.
Yeah, so some of those locker rooms too, like the people that were cornering them. And and look at and if you want to talk like on an administrative side, which you had Miguel Arate that went on to Bodog as well as Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
He was the matchmaker there. Jeff Osborne became the color commentary for the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was the UFC used to cherry pick out of hook and shoot, and rightfully so. I mean, it was a good proof. Like that was a legit belt.
Yeah.
Did you ever win a title at hook and shoot?
Yeah. That kind of what helped get me back into the UFC. I fought there in like UFC 28 before Dana and Zuf and them got involved.
It was SEG days, right?
SEG was as soon as I fought there, I immediately said, this sport's not going to make it. I'm going to go.
Why?
I started going back. First of all, I paid like $500 in a 2-round fight, which was nuts.
You had to pay to fight?
No. I got paid $500.
You got paid
$500
$500?
A 2-round fight.
But people did pay to fight at certain points.
Yeah,
you never had that. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
And then, you'd show up there, and it was actually like when they first time they had it in New Jersey, it was at the Taj Mahal. Usually they give you per diem, fight money, whatever. They gave me like a pass. Me and my corner's like, what is this? Well, you can go down and eat in like the cafeteria for the employees whenever you want. 24/7 when you go. I was like, this is not right. There's like, the waitresses, all these people are back there. And I was like, this, I've never had this happen. Like when I go to Japan, they would give you, it was like a legit organization, per diem. They had little baseball cards, kids would come talk. It was nothing like that. It was like the weigh-ins were in a room about this big the day of the event. And I remember I went there and they're like, Chris, your doctor, you said you had to have an ophthalmologist do your eyes. I said, yeah. They go, you had an ophthalmologist. I was like, what's the difference? An H? Yeah. You have to go do it today. So they took me and he got my eyes dilated the day of my fight. And they're like, he's fine. I come back. I'm like, where am I at? So it was just really not. As soon as I got done, I said, this sport's not going to make it. Was my initial thought. And I remember then when Zuf and them bought it, some people said, hey, man, they're really putting some money into this. And I started paying attention. I was like, okay. They're going in the right direction now, so it just changed quite a bit.
All right, so your first fight in the UFC was against a Miletich wrestler. Who was it?
I think his name was Ben Earwood, maybe. Is that right?
And I don't think he really fought too many times.
I think he got hurt after that, hurt his back, and probably, like I said, there was nothing in it. There was no money at that point. I'm probably like, this isn't going to last. So I don't know if he just hurt himself and went onto something else. I don't know what happened to him.
I think once the UFC got rid of the tournament format and they did single fights, they did a standard fight card. I think there'd be very few people that lost a fight that they brought back on the undercard. Like, if you're a main eventer, they would. You may have been, if not the first guy, one of the first 5 or 6 guys to make it back to the UFC after losing being cut there.
And that's what we were talking about before. We were talking about that was how I got back. I won a hook and shoot title, and how I did that was I knocked out Aaron Riley. Mm-hmm. And at that point, he just came off a great fight with Robbie Lawler, and they're like, this dude's unstoppable as far as you can't stop him.
Mike Tyson.
And I had I'd done a lot of pro boxing in between too. So coming off a successful boxing record, knocking out Aaron Riley, a couple other little titles here and there. I was beating a lot of guys on their radar. So they eventually said, okay, we'll give this guy a chance, because I hadn't fought for them. I'd fought for
everyone
SEG.
Else. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I hadn't fought for Zuffa.
Yeah, what's crazy is that initial fight with Robbie Lawler and Aaron Riley in the UFC, it was an instant classic.
Yeah, I mean, that's
great fight. It was a phenomenal fight. Yeah. And then he goes on to beat Tiki and a couple other guys, and it was, this is the sport's Mike Tyson. Like, they were saying that. So what was it like to you when they bring you back and they give you Robbie Lawler? Yeah. What was it like when people would say, hey, Chris, when's the next fight? And you go, who are you fighting next? And you said, Robbie Lawler. What was the look on their face?
They're like, oh, man, you're going to I can tell what they're thinking. You're going to get knocked out. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, that's what and I kind of loved it, because I remember reading the stuff. I think it was like, MMA Fighter magazine. It was like 95% of the people had predicted him to beat me, like in the first round or something. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I like being the underdog like that. I was like, nobody thinks I have a chance here. I'm like, this dude hits hard, but he's wild and raw. Let's see what happens, because I've had, at this point, I probably had 10 boxing matches. I was like, let's see what happens.
And you were undefeated at the time.
I can't remember if I was undefeated in boxing or if I'd lost one. I think my final boxing record was 13-1-1, but I can't remember if I had lost one yet or not. But I remember I felt pretty good. I was like, man, those taught me a lot about how to pace yourself and how to slip with the punch. Yeah. And just how to box. You know what I mean? So I was like, this dude hits hard, but I've never been knocked out in anything. Let's see if he can knock me out.
Yeah, and I would say. They just had the UFC Hall of Fame ceremony in Vegas, and they had Guida Sanchez.
Oh, great
there.
fight.
And I'm going to tell you, like, if you had to come up with a list of fights, like a short list of fights that belong in the Hall of Fame for that, I mean, that was kind of the original, Bonner Griffin was you and Robbie Lawler. Like, that's certainly a fight that should be looked at.
It was a fun one. I mean, that was one of the fights where I can remember, absolutely just everything around me was blacked out. Like, I didn't care about the referee or the judges or who else was around or watching. Like, we could have been me and him in the ring in a gym fighting like that, and there wouldn't have been any different. I could hear the crowd that pumped you up, but I mean, it was just like, I feel like I'm tougher than this guy. He thinks he's tougher than me. Let's see what happens. And I was like, you can hit me, but you're not gonna. Let's just see what happens here. And I thought that's what made especially the last round good, was we just both clubbing each other. I'm like, no, you're not gonna hurt me, dude. I mean, even he hit me once and knocked me down, but even on that, I was clapping on the way down. I was like, all right,
yeah. There was a moment in that third round where you just were like clapping your hands, and he's just like, okay,
yeah,
I got more.
That's what I mean. It was just like I didn't think about anybody else besides. It kind of got lost in the fight. I would say.
Tunnel vision, huh?
Yeah, just like, all right, I'm just staring him down the whole time. And he was doing the same to me, and I didn't care about anything else. So
I think a lot of the fights on those UFC cards, I'm not going to say a lot of them. I would say the fights that just had athletes in it that really didn't they weren't really developed yet. They were still present on the main card. That was like one of the original, like with fights with two guys that really knew what they were doing, and it was a really well matched.
Yeah,
Aaron Riley too. Aaron Riley, Robbie Lawler.
And like you said, there was a lot of fights, and we had people who were great athletes and great this and great that, but they didn't know the intricacies of fighting. Like, these were, with us, you had veterans who'd been there and understood what was going on, and had been through the trenches of training and the hard knocks. I think that's what you had there.
So after that fight, the UFC cuts him again because they didn't have a lot of bouts.
They didn't. You were signed to one fight deal. It wasn't they cut you. You were just. I remember at one point after I said, "Hey." After I won my next 2 fights, I said, you guys going to do a contract? They're like, oh, we don't do contracts unless, like, you're the champ. I was like, all right. But so I could continue to fight out. They didn't cut. I remember this. I did say, they said, we like what you did. We want you to fight for us again, but you have to fight outside UFC and beat a quality opponent.
What the heck?
Right.
And so this is funny. I fought
was that night or was that later on?
Later on. I let him go. So, like, I remember I fought in UFC 45. It was like a 10-year. So I fought Robbie then. They said they want me to find another quality opponent. So I fought in, like, the RFA or whatever.
Oh, no. You fought in reality shoot fighting against Pete Spratt.
Pete Spratt.
and then I beat him, and then the UFC asked me to come back. And I fought Tiki. And that was in UFC 47. That tells you how many they put on. So I fought in UFC 45. I fought Pete Spratt, and then I fought in 47. So I missed UFC 46. That was it.
And I think, didn't they eliminate the 155-pound weight class at that time too?
They were talking about it. I know they didn't have a title holder, but they were like talking about getting rid of the weight class. I don't know if they ever totally did or if it was just like, because I remember like Yves Edwards was fighting and they said, well, if we had a champ, he'd be, but we're not doing that right now. And they were talking about getting rid of the weight class.
Well, in a funny little side note, that at that reality shoot fighting event, which was in Belleville, Illinois, do you remember who the promoter was?
Randy Greedman.
Do you know anything about Randy that's a little left the center?
Well, I do know he got his head cut off.
Like, literally?
Yeah, Randy,
literally, yeah.
No, not figured. Randy was a big, and this is funny. I remember.
Big?
Yeah, huge.
What size is huge in your opinion? 600 pounds?
I don't think he was that much, was he?
Man, he had to be close.
You think so?
He was definitely over 450.
Yeah, that was about what I was going to say. He's probably 4 to 5 bills.
Yeah.
He was a big guy, man. He was, he put on these fights, and they always had a bunch of these, like, bikers there. Come to find out, I think he might have double-crossed. Something happened. They didn't like him. I heard they killed him and cut his head off. I have another funny one.
I actually know this, but go ahead.
There was another funny part. I remember, like, me and, Alex Stiebling fought on the card the first time.
Dude, this guy would have monster cards with, like, maybe $35,000-$40,000 just in payouts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In Belleville, Illinois, in the middle of nowhere. This dude was like every bit of 500 pounds.
Sean Shirk fought Carl Parisian there twice.
Yeah.
You know,
you fought Dave Strasser,
I fought Dave Strasser. I fought Pete Spratt on the
Steve
other card.
Berger?
Yeah.
You fight Berger there or no?
No, but I saw him fight there. There was a couple of just like, dude, there was so many good fighters there. It was nuts.
Yeah, even like the locker room, you were like, man, that's.
Yeah, and like you saw, like that guy fought in the UFC. That guy fought in the UFC. You know, you just
fly him in just to kind of meet him. Yeah. In fact. So I talked to a few people that were pretty familiar with this situation. So essentially, he had a couple biker buddies. One of his biker friends went to jail, and his buddy handed him his cocaine business. And
no wonder we were getting paid so well for those.
Yeah. And remember his girlfriend? Mm-hmm. All right, so dude, his girlfriend like had you get breast implants.
She's a stripper, look like,
and then you get like. Overly large size, and then there's like circus size. She had circus size. Oh, yeah, I mean it was just like, like she was so top heavy. So essentially, he hands off the cocaine business to Randy. Randy makes some new connections in Costa Rica, does really well, and he takes a business that's this big and makes it that big. And part of it was like he was so cash heavy. He would throw these events just to kind of get rid of some of the money, as well as do something that he enjoyed.
Right.
So the guy gets out of jail. They have a conversation. Randy says, "Hey, listen, man. What you started is this big. Now it's this big. I'm not giving this back to you. We can negotiate. We can talk." And I think one of the quotes from like someone close to the situation said, "Well, they found his body in various parts. How many people do you think it took to carry him into the woods?" Yeah.
So negotiations didn't go.
It didn't go his way. No. But I'll tell you what. The guy loved the sport, man.
Oh, yeah. And he put on some great fights. I remember, like I said, my buddy Alex fought there.
Alex Stiebling, yeah.
And he won some belt.
Who did he fight?
I can't even remember at this point, man.
He fought on the same card with Berger fought Phil Johns.
Yeah.
And you fought Pete Spratt. Yeah.
Is that okay?
It's the same card, yeah.
I remember Alex won a belt, and we came back there for another fight, and he was like, "I gave you that belt last time, Alex." And Alex goes, "What?" He goes, like, "That was a weight belt with tinfoil around it. That was terrible." And Randy got all sad. He was like, "Oh, he made fun of my belt."
Yeah.
Wouldn't fight for him again because Alex was fighting in Pride at the time.
Yeah. I think he actually came from Pride, right? Did he get cut from Pride, fought there, and then went back?
I think so, yeah. He would. I mean, Alex was a great guy, but at the time he was doing some making some poor decisions like money. He'd go there and every time he'd get done with a fight, he'd spend all his money. He'd be like, I need a fight. And they're like, well, you got to. And then he'd go fight around here, and then he'd go back to the prize. Like, come on, Alex, manage your money.
Yeah. So you armbarred Pete Spratt. I think that was like in the first minute and a half.
Yeah, it was real quick.
And then you went on to Tough 4.
No. Then I fought Tiki after that.
Okay.
Yeah, Tiki wasn't a fan favorite from what I remember.
But he had a good gym.
He did. Yeah, he had a really good gym.
One of the guys
but he was like one of those guys
manage.
that everyone rooted against.
I did when I was fighting him. Besides that, I mean, it was.
Did you knock Tiki out?
I got him with the bulldog choke.
Right, that's right, the bulldog choke.
And this is a funny story. So afterwards, I remember, I can't remember why, but Pat Miletich had left the fight for some reason. He was there and he left. And so after the fight, he comes back. He's like, hey, Chris, how'd the fight go? I was like, oh, great, man. I caught him with it. And I started to say the same thing that you got caught in by Carlos Newton. And I caught myself. And I was like, yeah, I caught him with a choke. And he looked at me and goes, you're about to say with that same choke that Carlos. And I started laughing. He started laughing. I was like, yeah, man, that was it. But I felt bad. But yeah, that same exact choke, that little bulldog choke head in there. And I got him with that one.
That's good. That's good. And then after that, when did Tough 4 start?
After that, I fought a couple more times.
Did you get any contracts before getting on the cup? So it was still fight to fight?
You were in the indie scene prior to Tough 4, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then I fought, after that, I think I fought Ronald Junn. I beat him. Good, tough guy.
Super tough guy.
Yeah. And then I fought the Carl Parisian fight.
What is your opinion on Carl Parisian?
Man, Carl, to me, was his own worst enemy. I mean, he had all the talent in the world as far as he's great hips, and that's something very tough to teach. His hips and his throwing ability was very good.
Oh, incredible.
I don't think his stand up was great, but back then people weren't really well rounded. People were good at this or good at that. I think that was why I experienced a lot of success because I had ground and stand up as well. But he had a lot of ability. I feel like whatever demons he was having, he just couldn't get over. After the fight, with me, he won a decision, and he was offered a title fight with Hughes, and it never materialized. I don't know why. I think he got hurt, and then he started. I don't know if he got a pill problem. I don't know exactly what happened, but he had some issues afterwards.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think addiction kind of hampered his career.
And I know a lot of fighters. I mean, you talked about Mark Kerr right there. You saw the smashing machine. I mean, that dude was a beast, and he just gets hooked on pills. And I think he was always doing stuff like that. But regardless, he got hooked on stuff, and that was it.
I think that's one of the downfalls of a lot of fighters. It's either alcohol or pills, and it's like they got to figure out. You got to stay away from one or the other. Definitely can't participate in both.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, I know. At some point, you're thinking, "Hey, you get hurt. You got to take some pills allegedly to help yourself get through it." But I know I've tried to make sure after I've seen what it's done to some people, I won't take any pills no matter what. If I get a surgery, I don't take pills. I'm just not doing it. I just had surgery on my wrist. I didn't take a single pill. Not doing it. I just don't want to.
I'm the same way.
I don't care. It doesn't hurt that bad. But I know there's too many people who have fallen into that trap, and then their life is totally off.
They can't get out.
Yeah. So
it's tough. So.
If I may rewind, you fought on a card here in Chicago.
Yeah, great.
Oh,
that was back in the day too, when we were still, fighting wherever.
Is there anything significant that may have happened there?
Yeah, I didn't want to ever fight here again because, obviously this was pre-commission, so they didn't have anything where money had to be in escrow. So, somebody tells me, this guy Ed Kim's putting on a fight, and he wants you to find the card. Great, I said, who else is on the card? Because I'm Larry. They start naming all these guys for Monty Cox. Rich Franklin's on the card. Oh, he's a big UFC guy.
Laverne Clark.
That's who I was fighting.
Rich Clemente.
Who else? Eugene Jackson.
The Wolf.
Yeah, he's fighting. Was like I can't. Was that fight? No, he fought.
Eugene Jackson fought Tony Strickland in the main event.
Tony Strickland won.
Cow, dude, I can't believe I remember that.
Yeah, and so there was probably at least 6 UFC veterans on there.
Okay, so...
But when I hear Monty's involved, I go, one thing I know about Monty gets paid. Yeah.
That's for sure.
So I was like, all right. And I'd never heard of Ed Kim. I just remember when we first showed up for the wins, I saw him, I was like, this dude's 15 years old. I don't know how old he was, but he wasn't. I thought he was probably like a 40-year-old man. He looked like he was in his 20s.
So Ed was this guy that used to post on the Underground Forum, like mixedmartialarts.com, MMA.tv is what it was known at the time. And Ed would always be like talking about like what a big shot he was, and he's got money, and he's got this, that, the other thing, and I'm going to do this great card, and never put up a single poster. So when you were in the locker room, what was the feel like?
Well, when I was in the locker room, I remember looking around and like, there's nobody here. I remember thinking, dude, I brought probably 10 people, and I was like, well, I brought about a fifth of the crowd here.
Yeah,
just like, this is not going to work out for anybody. I was like, oh, I'm glad. Hey, sucks for him. This dude's going to lose his ass, but I'm going to get paid.
So there was probably 300 people there. I mean, that includes the fighters and the cornermen.
Yeah. Not a good crowd.
Where was it at the Villa Park? Where was it at?
I got no idea.
I can't remember either.
I don't know.
I just remember
I fought Laverne Clark, and at the time, I think he was like 4-1 in the UFC.
Stud.
And I remember I was at this other fight where I fought, and he fought Matt Hughes, and he takes Matt Hughes down the first round and like kind of beats him the first round. Everybody's like, what the hell's going on here? He didn't get choked later, but I mean, he put up, a good fight. I'm thinking, man, this guy's really good. He's knocked out some people. He was a pro boxer. I knew that. And I'd been doing some pro boxing. It's like, all right, let's see what this guy's got. And I was surprised he kept trying to take me down, I was like, well, that made me feel good about my boxing because I knew he wasn't wanting to stand with me anymore. So I ended up beating him. And this is a weird thing. I remember, this is the only guy I ever remember doing this. Like, I remember one time he didn't get me taken down, and he starts grabbing my sides and, like, trying to twist them. Like pinching me. I'm like, you little bitch, what are you doing?
He was dirty. I was
like, what are you trying to do? But I remember I beat him, but I was just like, that was that first time somebody tried to. Usually fighters are kind of respect. Even if you don't like the person, you try to punch him in the face.
He's pretty seasoned.
And I mean, like, I think he's from like Davenport, Iowa, or something. Those people there are a little rough over there.
Now, when did you realize you weren't getting paid?
When my check bounced.
Oh, so he wrote everybody checks?
He wrote everybody checks.
Did he come into the locker room and address the situation?
No. He just, I went, afterwards we go there to where he was. He's writing out checks. You go, Chris, thank you very much. Cool. It's like everything was right as rain. Everything was good.
No sweat, no concern.
Nope.
Didn't care.
Nope. Not until Monday when I went and cashed a check, and then insufficient funds.
I tell you, that's one of those things you go to the currency exchange on, and then you got a warrant for your arrest.
Yeah. I mean, that was nuts. It was, and so I start calling people, and everybody's in the same situation. They even talked to Monty Cox about that. I was like, hey, man, what's going on? He was like, yeah, we're trying to do this law. So I was like, man, I knew the writing on the wall. He was going to file bankruptcy. He disappeared, filed bankruptcy, and,
Yeah, this guy used to post on the internet all...
Crickets, never hear from him.
Yeah, then all of a sudden, he was gone. Yeah.
And, luckily for me, I was like, man, I got a job on the fire department. This isn't going to, like, break me, but it was still, like, $4,000 or something, And
that's still the principle.
I know, but, like, there's, like, Laverne Clark's probably going to try to kill you.
And that's a legit fight.
That was a tough fight.
Yeah. I mean, that's not like an easy walk in the park.
No, I mean, we went 3 rounds and we battled, It was a tough fight. So, I was surprised that when it went down like that. But I guess he had money in escrow and somebody had seen receipts, but then he took it all out. Well, or he had money, maybe not in escrow, I shouldn't say it like that. He had money somewhere
in the bank, he had a receipt.
where somebody had saw this money was there, and then it got taken out.
That's crazy.
So I kept saying, like, you know what? If you want to rip people off, rip off some senior citizens or some Girl Scouts. Don't rip off a bunch of fighters. You're an idiot.
Rob Walmart. Yeah.
There's a lot of people to rip off. You did the wrong thing. So nobody's ever seen him again, but I guarantee if they do, he's getting an ass whooping.
Yeah. Who lined that fight up for you?
I don't even remember. Probably. I mean, I think somebody called me and said they want me to fight. I mean, it wasn't Phyllis. So
that's wild. Yeah. And how involved was Keith Palmer with you?
Well, Keith was the one who really kind of helped me change my career around because that's when I first started going into boxing.
Yeah, boxing coach, right?
Yeah. So I went in. I remember thinking at our gym we had a couple guys and they started going to this boxing gym. I remember thinking I'm pretty good on the ground. I better round my game out a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So I started going to this boxing gym and I was probably there a month, maybe 5 weeks. And I remember I was sitting at my house and I got a phone call and it's Keith. He was like, hey, what are you doing next Saturday? I was like, nothing. He's like, well, you want to do a boxing match? It's like, just boxing? I never really thought about it. And he's like, yeah. It's on the ESPN2 card, and they told me they need a tough guy. And he's like, I got a tough guy. I don't know if he can box at all, but we'll take you up there. I was like, all right, we'll go do it. And They take me up to Baraboo, Wisconsin. It's at the Ho-Chunk Casino.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing, like, what cities the fight game take people to.
Yeah, I never... So we go up there, and, like, they had an ESPN2 card, and I fought it was an Indian reservation, obviously, and I fought one of their Native Americans from that reservation, so I was like, all right. And I remember...
Deck stacked against you before you walk in there.
I remember the guy, Pete, who was, like, the matchmaker for... Top Rank Boxing. He said he saw me warming up, and he's like, Jesus, Keith. I said, bring a guy who could fight a little bit. He thought I was just going to get my ass beat. And then when the fight went on, they told me that they felt like I won every round, but they ended up calling it a draw. So it was my first fight. They called it a draw. And that's where the guy, I saw talking to Pete afterwards, and he's like, man, you whipped that dude's ass. He's like, you hit hard. What's your name? And I told him, Chris Lytle. And he's like, okay, I'm going to get you some boxing matches. I'm going to call you Lights Out because James Toney's done with that name. This is when James Toney was kind of in between. I know. And it was right after he fought at 160 and before he got to cruiserweight. So I thought he was.
It was when he was training.
Yeah. But, he was one of the best. I love watching him. But,
First ballot Hall of Famer, man.
But Pete,
the boogeyman, as far as I'm concerned. James Toney was a bad dude.
I love watching. But Pete gave me my nickname because I'm a firm believer. You don't make your own nickname. Somebody's got to give you a nickname. He gave me mine, so I've stuck with it ever since.
Up until this point, you had no nickname.
Had no nickname.
Damn.
Yeah, so he called me Lights Out. I think I was in like 2002.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Montel Griffin is actually a really good friend of mine. Him and Tony fought twice, and he's got a pretty good take on it. James Toney's a bad dude.
So slick, man. He was just so slick. Like I could tell if you were a boxing fan when if you were excited about James Toney versus Vasily Jirov in the cruiserweight. I was so excited about that fight.
I apologize, Jonah. How many times have I talked to you about that fight?
More than I have fingers and toes to count.
Dude, was that not one of the greatest fights ever?
I knew it was going to be. If you were going to be excited about that fight, because Vasily just was a volume guy, and Tony was so slick, and he was just able to move that head. I was like, it's going to be a great fight, and it was.
So Vasily Jirov was
he's from the same place as Triple G.
Yes. Yeah. So when the economy collapsed, his mom was like an Olympic sprinter or runner. She was an Olympian, grade A, legit athlete. Economy just falls apart. She goes to the boxing coach and leaves her child there. And the guy's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And she's like,
you got it. You figured it out.
He's yours.
Wow.
Do you remember the commentary during that fight?
Not offhand.
So essentially it was, Vasily would row a boat 6 miles into the Black Sea and, and then the boxing trainer would throw him overboard and would, motor back into, back to shore.
Come back if you want.
Yeah, and that's essentially, he had to fight German shepherds in close hallways. Like, we do a boxing, little update, and my dream interview is Jirov, and I want to know everything that you went, how you were tortured.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's different than the Cuban techniques.
Yeah. He was just a hard-nosed guy.
That's how it is.
Yeah. He said, I remember he was saying, I read an interview that some friends of his died while training.
Jesus.
And I was 12, and the guy was bunking with died because he didn't survive one of the sessions. It's like, oh.
Hey, and that's why those guys are beating our people in boxing. They're just mentally tough, dude.
Yeah, Jirov, that's a really obscure fight that I don't think gets accredited.
Oh, no, that was like I said, I could tell if you're a boxing fan if you were ready for that one, because I was looking forward to that for a long time. I was like, this is going to be a great fight.
Yeah, that was
one of my favorites.
Yeah, for sure. And he was just so grimy, but it was legit. James Toney is legit.
Oh, man. And I somehow stole his nickname. I didn't do it. They gave it to me.
Yeah. Hey, man.
I felt bad.
Have you ever ran into him?
No. But I train Layman Brewster is a buddy of mine. He's in the gym a lot, and he knows him real well.
Does Layman have a gym in Indianapolis?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But he comes and helps out with Mitrione sometimes right now. Layman's just a good dude.
Hey, who's in your gym? Okay, you got Mitrione, you got Pat McPherson helping you guys out.
Got him Andrew Holbrook, who used to fight in the UFC. He just been injured. He's making a little comeback right now. See how that goes. Then a lot of guy named Cameron Van Camp. He's one of the
he's one of those guys. Once he finds his next gear, he's going to do it.
And here's the thing: we just started working with him not that long ago. Really, he's got a lot of upside. I'm really wanting to get him some fights here soon, just to go from what he's been doing to kind of doing that transition to train with me and Pat and everything. But he's got a lot of ability.
I think with Cameron, and he hasn't fought on TV yet, but I don't think he has
he lost his last fight
in Missouri, right?
Yes, St. Louis on Shamrock.
On Shamrock FC, yeah.
But he fought what's his name there, Volker.
Okay,
a good fight, man. When I watched it, he pieced Volker up on his feet. You see the fight, Volker's eyes are both full of shit. It was a good fight, but Volker just used experience and beat him. It was just those couple little things he didn't really. He got
out-positioned. Yeah,
I positioned him, but
I watched that fight.
He's gonna be a bitch.
Yeah, I think it's mental with him, and once he pushes through, he's gonna find the next gear and he's gonna level up.
He's got a big upside.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, no, I'm a fan of that guy for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, I think he's gonna make it eventually. So tough 4.
Yeah.
How was it living in that house? Was that brutal?
Well, here, take us through how you got on Tough 4.
Okay, so
right now you're at contract to contract.
Yeah, and I remember what really made me mad. This is another fight where, I'm getting ready. I fought, Joe Riggs. He did fights down to 170. I'm great buddies with Joe. Joe's one of my favorite people in the sport, and so. After they set it up, we called and talked to each other. It was like, hey, man, it is what it is. You got to fight your buddies sometimes. It was like, all right. So,
you guys didn't make a pact?
No.
Like Tito and Chuck?
Nothing like that. Hey, I'll punch you right in the face.
Yeah.
And so, that one was one where I was really disappointed because I knew he was going to have trouble making the weight, and I knew he was going to be tired after he made the weight. So he makes the weight. First round, somehow I end up on top of him. I was like, oh, this is weird. I didn't even think he's more of a wrestler than me, the big guy. Anyway, he wastes a lot of energy getting on top. And I remember thinking, my game plan is just go to the second, third round, take him in the deep water. And I remember, so he was really tired, I could tell, because he had that weight cut, get to the second round, and I'm on top again. Like, he tries to take me down, and I get a reversal. I'm like, oh, he's done. He's dead and tired, I could tell. I'm passing guard, and he hits me with the elbow from the bottom, cut me open.
Right, and that was under your eye, right?
It was over my eyes, right here. Busted, it was a weird one. It was 3 different directions, and I remember... I was like, dang. And I remember it bled really bad. I remember I'm sitting there, the referee came and he stopped it. And this is funny. I remember it was McCarthy. And I remember they're holding something on my eye right here in the hold. I remember it's been about a minute. And I remember I go, I think I can keep going. And he goes, fight's over. I look up and the referees or the judges are, the ring card girls are in there.
No, yeah.
I didn't even realize it was going, oh, okay. It's been over. It's been over for at least a minute. I had no idea. And I'm sitting here with my eyes closed. I think I can still do it. And they're like, they're in there announcing I'm going to lose. I'm like, okay, shit. So, but after that, I was a little disappointed because man, every time. And then he got a title fight next. Like, dang. So then I'm just waiting to hear my next phone call, and my next phone call is from Dana White. And he's like, hey, maybe it's Joe Silva at this point, but they were like, hey, we want you to be on Tough 4. This is the only time we're doing the comeback where it's fighters who have been in there and haven't made it, to the title or whatnot, and you're going to get a chance at redemption. Would you like to do that? And I was like, of course, man.
And this is when UFC started becoming the organization it is today.
Right. Like I said, we knew...
It was a slow walk.
Yeah.
We knew from the first 3 Toughs that what it was doing for the fighters. I mean, everybody knew who they were. They were getting lots of publicity, It was making their career.
I never missed an episode. Well, I honestly never missed an episode.
Out of all of the Ultimate Fighters, that may have been the most stacked in terms of talent.
Well, I'd have to hope so because it was all veterans who had done well in the past. You know what I mean? There's a lot of staying power. There wasn't many people who, after that show, disappeared. I mean, everybody was there for a while. Everybody's really, with the exception of Jeremy Jackson.
I mean, you lived with him for a little bit. What was...
I thought he was a good guy when I talked to him. He seemed good, and I didn't realize as much as until I watched the show that they had built it up that me and him were going head to head and going to fight. I had no idea about that. They acted like that he wanted to fight me is what I was gathering when I watched the show. Our whole strategy though, I was amazed when I got on there how much of the team concept came into play. Like when I first was going on there, I was like, this is about me. I don't care about any of these guys. This is about me making it to the finals. Within a couple of days, it's weird when you go in there and there's no TV, there's no phone, there's no radio, there's no contact with the outside world. All you have is your family of people right there you're with. And
no phone calls? Nothing?
No phone calls. No radio, no TV. You go to the gym and you go to the house, that's it.
And how long were you there for?
A little over 6 weeks.
That's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really, I'll explain that in a minute, but I mean, it was amazing to me, like how, like the camaraderie with my newfound friends that I had. And it became more about, it wasn't all about me, and it was about our team. Like our team were like, okay, we want to try and keep control as long as we can. So we have to set these fights where it's going to be best, most advantageous for our team. So like one of the things we said was we got control because they had it first, and Shoney Carter beat Rich Clemente, and so we got control of this. Who are we going to do next? And I remember eventually I was like, I beat Pete in a minute, and he's on the other team. I'm pretty sure I'll beat him again, and then we'll keep control. Like, done deal. So
there was 2 coaches on that show, 2 main coaches, right? It was GSP and Randy Couture. Was the other one?
But they weren't on. They were coaching both sides.
Right. Okay. So it wasn't like the previous formats where it was like one coach on one team, another coach on another team. Because I thought it was really cool that GSP was in here coaching the guys that would
potentially fight him. Yeah.
Well, what they told us was they didn't feel it was right to have, GSP, even though he was a great fighter, he hadn't had as many fights as most of the guys who'd been fighting. Like he hadn't had as many fights as me or Matt. A lot of these guys.
So he didn't have the opportunity either being in Canada.
But I'm just saying, they said they didn't feel like it was right for somebody who's been training longer and had more fights to be coached by somebody else. So the other toughs were new guys coming in with veteran coaches. These were you can't have veteran
studs.
But
there wasn't a single guy in that show that couldn't have opened their own gym with a lot of credibility attached.
100%. I mean, everybody had a lot of ability there. Yeah. And most people did have their own gyms at some point.
So did Jeremy strike you as being strange at all?
Only thing I thought was a little strange was like he was a last minute replacement. I can't remember exactly who wouldn't go, but he said he got called like a couple days before the thing happened, and he got people.
So you guys had a heads up so you could get in some sort of
shape.
We were
all shape and ready, and they said they were trying to like hold him off for a little while so he could get in better shape before he fought. I can't remember who didn't show or what. I think it might have been one that like Nick Diaz or something didn't come at the end or something.
Imagine Diaz in that.
Oh
my God.
That'd been a wild
6 weeks with no weed. That guy, he ain't lasted.
He probably would have won the middleweights. I mean, right?
No, he was a welterweight back then.
Oh yeah.
That'd been good. I mean, that'd been
fun. That'd have been fun.
That'd been fun. Yeah. So I think that's why Jeremy made it there. I believe. I'm not real sure, but. He seemed like an all right guy. He was not on my team, so I never really got to train with him or really spend as much time with them as people on my team.
So each team had his own captain then, right?
No.
So you guys just made decisions as a group then, correct? Okay. All right.
Who did you get along with the most in the house?
I really clicked with Matt Serra. I thought he was great. Den Thomas really was a great guy.
You fought Den on there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to fight both those guys.
Yeah, that's not easy, man.
No, I mean, like I said.
But there was no easy road, no matter where you went.
And that was the thing. I remember in the finals, like all of our guys from our team won the welterweights, so like Shoney won, Matt Serra won, then Thomas and me. And then was my probably, I think Matt got hurt a little bit, or had like something, so I didn't train with him quite as much. I did quite a bit, but not as much as then Thomas. But I mean, like he was my number one sparring partner and training partner. And then what was funny is that after they made the matchups, they go, okay, you guys all got to fight each other. Matt, Serra, you're fighting Shoney, rematch, and me and Den are fighting. I remember like, all right. And then like, we were fighting in 2 days. So, like, I've been training with you the whole time. We went ahead and, like, trained and sparred the day before we fought. Like, screw it. Why not? What's the matter? Like you're going to see something tomorrow, like today. How are we going to hide it? I've been working with you for the last 6 weeks. Yeah. Are you going to do something new?
You're right.
I mean, then you just start pulling out, like, different weird,
Start grabbing them by the side.
Actually, I will tell you this.
Borrow LeVerne Clark's mode.
Yeah. Chris, you son of... I will tell you this. So I think I did do a little sneaky thing on that. The whole time, like, when I was sparring with him, I wasn't going really hard. I was trying to go fast or whatever. And I remember as soon as the fight started, I went over there. I knew intentionally I went through some heat right away, hard. And I remember the look on his face was like, this ain't the Chris I thought I was fighting. You know what I mean? Because I think he thought Chris don't hit that hard. But all of a sudden, I was doing that on purpose. And then all of a sudden, I come to the fight. I start throwing bombs, and he started shooting in on me right away. Because he was like, nah, this dude isn't. I learned that in Japan. I remember I went to Japan once.
What, the hold the hold move? What did you learn?
No, okay, so I go to Japan for pancreas. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he was like one of the Neo Blood champs from a long time ago. And I went there, this guy, Kei Yamami, I think his name was. I remember I went there, and I was still a new guy. I'm trying to prove how tough I am and how
Puffing
good
your chest up.
Yeah, I deserve to be here.
Got a new tattoo.
And he's just sitting there on the mat, and they're like, oh, roll with him. I'm like, all right. So I'm over there, and I'm doing my A game. I'm throwing all these submissions on him. I'm like, this guy's a Neo Blood champ. He sucks. I'm putting him in all these moves. I was like, he wasn't trying. He was trying to learn what I did. Yeah. He wasn't trying to beat me.
Putting together the blueprint.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they knew later on they were going to have us fight, and he beat me in a majority decision. I think one judge called it a draw. The other two gave him the fight because he knew exactly what I was going to do, and he didn't give out any secrets.
He was just studying him.
Yeah. So I was like,
damn, you got me.
That's me being like a 23-year-old kid going up against a 30-year-old man learning, So now I'm 30 and I'm in this tough gym, and I kind of do the same thing. I didn't give away all my secrets, so when I came, I was like, I'm throwing hard punches down. I think he was like, this ain't. I threw him off, I think, so it made him react different. So I won that decision and got to beat him. But I still like him. He's a funny ass dude.
Yeah, I think he's still
a lot of ability, man.
I think so too, and I think he's actually a better instructor than he was fighter. He was a very decorated guy.
He's much better on the ground than people give him credit for. He was great on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Yves Edwards might fall into that category too. Like if I had to pick another guy that when he beat Josh Thompson, that in my opinion was the
knockout.
155-pound world title fight, even though there was no title present, and then they cut the division.
They basically said that to him. He would have. That was a title fight.
Why wouldn't it be?
And that was a great fight, and he caught him that kick. I mean, and then they cut the division. Like, what are you doing, man? Everybody likes his weight class.
It's the greatest.
I don't get it.
Yeah, it was the greatest. Now, you never really left Indy, for training. No, What kept you there?
A couple things. I had 4 kids. And my job on the fire department, so.
Would you ever take trips anywhere?
Very, very rarely.
Yeah, because that was always kind of strange. Like I knew you were in Indianapolis, and I'm a Chicago guy.
Sure.
And I'd be like, it's a 3-hour drive. I go, has he been to Gilbert Grappling? Has he been to Jeff Coran's? He's been, some of the more prominent gyms here. And you're like, no. And I'm like, well, he seems like a nice guy. It's not like he's a social issue.
I get along with everybody. It was just. To me, being a fireman, I'm gone a third of my life anyway, missing all my family stuff, And then when I was training, every time at about 4:30, I'd have to leave to go to the gym. Right about the time my kids would get off school, 4:30, and so I'm missing most of my kids' life. You know what I mean? So I felt very guilty when I'd leave and go out of town for fights. Let alone if I don't even have a fight, just going to train. And I always felt like.
You're a family guy.
I could make it up with volume. For example, like at the gym, if I remember going to the gym sometimes and there was not anybody very good in there that day, but Pat would be like, okay, you're hitting the mitts here for 2 minutes, boom, now a guy's jumping on me. He's not even a good wrestler, but I beat him up the first round. Then I'm doing kickboxing with somebody, and then I'm hitting the mitts again. And after about 3 rounds of that guy who's not a good wrestler is taking me down. You know what I mean? And they're throwing me around. So it's like. We would make up for quality with volume and just beat me to death, man. And it wasn't the ideal situation, but I would rather do that and then go back to my family than drive up to and spend the night somewhere and then go to the firehouse the next day and not be with my kids for several days because I had a fight coming up. You know what I mean? That, so. And I was never willing to, like people always talk about, would you like to move this place? I'm like, I'm never willing to up and move my kids from their family and friends because I want to go chase my dream. I should be able to do that where I'm at no matter what. I think. If I'm a good enough fighter, I should win wherever. But it was tough.
Did you ever bring it?
I'm not mic'd up, but I just wanted to ask, how long were you doing both? How long were you a firefighter? And do repeat the question.
Sure. He asked how long I did that. My whole career. I got on the fire department in 2001, and so. Before that, I didn't have to, but I really wasn't even fighting in the UFC big time. Like Tenzufa bought it, and it was like in 2003. So pretty much my whole UFC career, I was a firefighter, and had 4 kids. And
that's pretty incredible, man. I got high on it.
It just, the thing I've realized about that is it's all just about doing what you want to do. Like I wanted to, those were my passions right there was it. People ask me what I did for fun. I was like, that's what I do. I mean, do you like to go hunting? I'm like, I've never been hunting in my life. Do you do golf? No. Do you go fishing? No. I didn't do anything besides those three things.
I like to fight.
yeah. I mean, if I wasn't with my kids or at the gym, I was at the fire station. That was it. There was nothing else. And it sounds really, people are always like, man, it sounds like a fun life. You get to go to Japan. I'm like, yeah, I get to go to Japan and I fight and then I leave the next morning.
Yeah, you get there the day before weigh-ins, leave the day after.
Yeah, so I'm like, or you get to go to England. Yeah, same thing. And don't get me wrong. The night after the fight, I go out and party every time. But then I leave the next morning. So I might not, like when you go to Japan, we go out to Roppongi. You hang out at Roppongi and the subway starts again at 6 in the morning, you take the subway back, you take a shower, and you get on the flight. I just didn't have the ability to stick around and do a lot of fun, certain things. So my life consisted around doing what I really wanted, and what I had to do was train. I'm always looking at people say, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that. I'm like, man, you have time if you want. Mm-hmm. Like if I gave you tickets to the Super Bowl and you're like, well, I have to work, you're going to find a way to work. You know what I mean? You're going to find a way to get there if you have to.
If it means enough to you.
If it means enough to you. So what meant to me is, I knew I wasn't the strongest or the fastest or, the biggest guy in my weight class. I had to just try and outwork people. So I would never miss a gym. And I felt bad in many ways when I would miss my kids' gymnastics meet or basketball game. But like if I had a fight coming up, I'm not going to go on TV and get embarrassed by getting beat up because I didn't train hard. I'm like, my wife didn't have to work for 12 years because I did that stuff. I was there and that was my job. So she could play and do all the things of the mother and take care of all my kids because I earned the money, So I'm out doing that to earn the money so she could do that. I'm not going to not earn as much money. I'm not going to embarrass my kids, my trainers, all the people who spent time with me because I didn't feel like going to the gym that day and watching my kid. I had to be there is my thought. Now, I wish I could have worked more of a balance because I knew I missed a lot of my kids' stuff, but I didn't know how else to do it.
Well, that's also life,
It is life, And if you don't figure that out,
you don't get everything you want. Yeah, you know what I mean. You got to work a little sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Or a lot.
Or a lot. Yeah.
And it just depends on what's important to you, and that was important to me. Everything was important to me. All that stuff. I love being on the fire department. I love spending time with my kids, and I love being involved with fighting. These are the things I liked. That's what I chose to spend my time on. What else would I spend my time on? Golfing, like I said, I don't even like that. What am I going to do? Or other hobbies? I mean, I don't really have any other hobbies. It's been hard after fighting trying to find other hobbies.
How much weight do you cut for a fight when you were in UFC?
I'd get up to about 190, which is very light for 170-pound fighters. Because that was in my and I never, like I said, never didn't go to the gym. But when I had a fight camp coming up, I really started up in 2-a-day trainings and different things. And I'd probably get down to about 182, just training real hard. And then I'd leave for a fight, and I'd try and make sure when I'd land, I'd be about 10 to 12 pounds over.
Okay, and then
so easy cut from there though.
And then in the Ultimate Fighter house, how hard was it to maintain your weight?
That was, it was so easy because...
Really?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it was so hot in Vegas. It was like 110 degrees, it was so hot there.
Sweat it out.
And then, that's what a lot of people complain about, I don't have my cell phone, or there's no TV. I'm like, I remember me and Matt said, this is the best thing ever. I'd never had a real training camp in my life. I come to find out. Mm-hmm. And this was where the only time in my life I ever had nothing to worry about. I got to go to the gym twice a day, train with some of the best guys in the world, good coaches, good nutrition, no distractions. There was, all the protein shakes I wanted. I could get whatever food I wanted. So I'm eating clean. I'm working out twice a day. I'd never had that. So my weight was dropping. I was walking around I was under 180.
See, when Shoney got announced to be in the house, I thought there's just no way he's going to be able to maintain his weight.
Yeah. I mean, luckily for us, like I said, that was another big reason of keeping control of the house. We knew when we wanted to fight. That way you could always say, we wouldn't tell them. They were always like, come on, man, who are you going to have us fight? Like, no. That way 3 guys have to cut weight. And then they didn't know it because they had to get down to within striking range because we're going to tell you you're making weight tomorrow because the announcement would be one day, the weigh-ins would be the next day, the fights would be the next day.
That sounds almost dangerous.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. So, when we knew we were in control, we'd look at them and, all 3 of their guys or 4 of their guys would be out wearing plastics because they didn't know if they had to make weight the next day. So that helped us and our guys knowing when they had to cut down weight, and that was one of the advantages. And that's why I said that's where the team concept really came into play.
Yeah, it's certainly an advantage.
Yeah,
that is crazy, man.
Yeah.
What was the delay from the time you guys would film to the time it would be aired? Like 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Oh, no. Like, we filmed the whole thing, and then they showed it, like, they edited it and showed, like, they started, like, 6 weeks later.
So you were home while it was being aired?
Oh, yeah.
Not only was he home, I was calling Palmer. Come on, dude.
Tell me.
What do you do?
Yeah.
I don't know. I heard he did well, and you wouldn't even tell Keith.
Well, luckily, I think...
you guys sound like a big contract, from what I understand, like a non-disclosure.
Who was it? I remember Matt Sarah was like, man, when that Luke Kumo or whatever, he said he was on there, and he wouldn't tell them how it would happen. He was like, come on, Luke, how to do it. He's like, I've got 3 million reasons why I can't tell you. They say, this dude's nuts. He won't tell you.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, luckily, they'd already kind of, like, there'd been some talkings on the internet of people leaking what they think might have happened, so...
It was pretty well kept secret, man.
Yeah,
it really was.
I never really told anybody, but, they had theories. But
now, in the finals of that, against Matt Serra, were you expecting his game plan to just hold, like, to push you against the fence like that?
No, I thought he was going to try and take me down a little bit. Well, I mean, I guess he did try and take me down, but, I thought it'd be a much more action-packed fight. But here's the thing I've realized about that fight, it was...
That's a hard one to watch.
I wouldn't wish that fight on anybody.
That's a hard one to watch.
Not just a fight, but that situation is what I mean. Because to me, they announced, the winner got $100,000. And then they said they got a sponsorship for like $100,000. And they got a title fight, and they get a new car, and they get a watch. The loser gets $10,000. So you had looking at about a $250,000 difference between winning and losing and a title shot. So looking at it like... And you have about a 4-month period in between the time you were on the show until that last fight. So you got about 4 months to think about it. And all I was thinking about was all the stuff I'm going to do with my title shot, all the stuff I'm going to do, the money with my kids, and all the stuff that my kids have had to deal without for so long. I'm going to make this up to them now because I'm going to win all this money. Now, talking to Matt Serra, he had the same thing. His wife is telling him, I want to stay home and be a mother. I don't want to have to work, so you need to win this money. So we both have a lot of pressure on us to win this money. It's all about the money, the title, all that stuff. So going into the fight, I mean, to be honest with you, I remember somebody tell me, Chris, you can win by an inch or you can win by a mile. You got to win. And I remember thinking, that's true. So I didn't care if this is the only fight I can ever think in my career. Like, I don't care what anybody thinks. It's a fight I'm going to win.
Yeah.
And
it changed game plans for both of you guys, I think.
For sure. We were both scared to death to lose. We both didn't want to lose. And you could tell by watching the fight. Exactly. Too much pressure. Too much was on the line. So, and here's what happened. Like, me, it was, looking back, it was me not totally understanding what they were looking at. Because right from the beginning, we start throwing punches, and he pushes me in the fence. I'm thinking, he's trying to get a takedown. And all I'm thinking is, I'm stopping the takedown, and I'm landing little punches to the side of his head and to his body. And I remember thinking, in my head, I'm thinking, look, these aren't much, but I'm the only one landing punches, and the referee's not breaking us up, so obviously he's counting it.
That's a mistake, I think, in that fight.
And so, that if he would have started breaking us up, it'd have been different. But so in my eyes, I'm thinking I'm winning this fight because he's trying to take me down. I'm stuffing every takedown, and I'm landing punches. He's got a little bit of bruise here and there, but looking back, I know Matt's point of view is going, I'm holding him against the fence. I'm
time
winning.
Management.
So, and when it came to the end, like I remember I took him down in like the first round, I take him down the second round. Nothing much happened there, and he took me down the third round. But I remember thinking I was winning the fight, and he was thinking he was winning. But I remember at the end, one judge gave me all 3 rounds, another gave him all 3 rounds. So it was just like they didn't even know what to look at. You know what I mean?
So I mean, even today, I wouldn't know what I was looking at.
That's what I mean. Like looking at it now, I would probably think, yeah, he's winning because he's got he's
just time management. Yeah.
But back then I thought I was doing I thought on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably doing 1 or 2 damage, but he's doing 0, so I'm thinking I'm winning. Mm-hmm. But after that fight I lost. I mean, to be honest with you, that was devastating. I thought I won the fight.
How hard was that?
I mean, it bothered me for months. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I'd wake up at like 3 in the morning. I couldn't go back to sleep. I'd just be sitting there going over my head. I was like, and I remember, like I said, I felt like I let everybody down, my kids especially. Like I didn't win them the money. I didn't win and then other people who even the guys who lost first round, if they came back in the other thing and they won more total money than me because they got like 10-10 that night. They got $20,000. And I was just like, man, I felt like just so disappointed in myself, and everybody's like, yeah, this sucks. I don't even want to do this anymore. And then eventually, I remember, I started thinking, I was like, man, you have a responsibility. You owe your kids $200,000, $250,000. You got to make this up.
Did you have a talk with them about it and stuff?
No, not really. I had to talk with my wife, and I remember saying, and that's when they started giving away these bonuses a lot.
The fight of the night bonuses.
I was like, man, that's when I decided, like, this is, I still want to win, but I got to win my way. I'm never going to try and win a decision again, because if you try and win a decision and you don't fight how you should and you lose, you don't feel good in it anyway. At least after that, I did lose some decisions, but I went for it, and I didn't feel as bad. I felt bad for losing, but I was like, hey, I went to knock it out.
Put on a good show.
I put it out there, and whatever happens, happens. So after that fight, that changed the way I looked at it, and I felt like I got to make my kids this Monday. I got to win some bonuses. And that was my thought. I was like, I'm going to win fight of the night, sub of the night, knockout of the night. I mean, I'm going for this every single time. And I remember being out there in the back once, and there's a good knockout. And I remember I looked at my corner and said, "Are we going for the sub of the night tonight?" I mean, that was a legitimate thought in my pro game plan.
Keith Sell versus Scott Smith was on the undercard of that.
Yep.
And that was
one of the best finishes I've ever seen. I mean, no. Yeah, that was the same.
When you talk about like the short list of fights that maybe belong, to inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, that could be on there as well.
For sure.
And that was a phenomenal lead up. And I remember like when I think it was right before you guys came out. I'm just like, I mean, I was amped for that. That was
during the tough final with you and Sarah. You guys were in each other's corners up until that fight, right?
Oh yeah.
Now, who was in your corners during that fight?
Well, you had your own corner.
Then we were back home, so I had
Okay.
Pat McPherson, Keith Palmer, and those guys.
Okay.
So
that's a pretty calm corner.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, the good thing
There's
is
a lot of yelling with those two.
Before a fight, we were in there and we're like debating politics and doing all kinds of stupid crap. Just like trying to keep my mind off of the fight. We're just talking.
Do you take a nap too?
Sometimes,
fight
yeah.
day?
But we're just like sitting here talking, all kind of having fun and laughing and making fun of each other. We're not, gung ho and yelling and stuff. We're just nice and relaxed and trying to keep yourself from getting that adrenaline going. I was trying to relax.
When do you start getting pumped?
No matter what you say, it's tough to not get pumped as soon as you walk in the building. As soon as you walk in there, you're like, all right, this is it. This is real. This is happening. And then, especially when you're watching some of the other fights, that's the most brutal part. When you're in there and you're watching all these other fights, and you're the last fight of the night, you're like,
is your heart going?
Yeah, oh yeah. You're just like, you're trying to calm it down because that adrenaline starts getting up
you
here.
lose your
Because that adrenaline
gas.
happens, you're done.
Yeah.
So you got to manage that. You got to control it, and that's part of becoming a veteran is knowing how to manage that.
How long did it take before you were able to figure that out?
Really, like I said, I remember the first time I fought in Japan, I hit that adrenaline dump. And I remember it was terrible. It was one 15-minute round, and after about 6 minutes, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I had nothing left. But I went on for another 9 minutes and made it to the end, and that's when I kind of overcame. And I was like, okay.
I think boxing teaches that too, man.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And that's why I knew
Wrestling.
I knew when Conor McGregor fought Floyd, he had no chance because he'd never fought a boxing match.
It's different.
He'd never been. I mean, I remember I started fighting 4-round boxing matches, and I got tired. And then I fought 6-rounders, and I got tired. And I fought 8, and I got tired. But I learned how to do it all. You can't go right to a 10-round fight. I mean, you can't make it 10 rounds if you've never done it before, or 12 or whatever. I just don't think it's realistically possible. So I thought if he doesn't knock him out in the first 2 rounds, he's got no chance.
Yeah, I mean, there is a science to boxing.
Without a doubt. And just experience carries you a long way.
Yeah, even outside of the ring with the administrative decisions like that. Now we're going to go 4, then 6. What we've talked about in the past is the issues we have with boxing is the 10-round fights. Either make it 9 rounds or make it 11. You got to eliminate the draw.
I couldn't agree more.
Or make it 13.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Especially with the concussion protocol happening right now, I'd like to see it go 13 rounds.
Yeah, something even doesn't make any sense.
No, at all. And like when you were first starting in the beginning, did you ever fight 2-round fights? Because that's what was going on, like regionally. I'm like, why 2 rounds?
I fought one in the UFC.
You fought a 2-round fight in the UFC?
My first UFC, the one with SEG owned it. Like I said, I lost the decision in a 2-round fight. I was like, I didn't even get time to do anything. I was like, I want a 3-round fight at least. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I never really understood that, like where that decision making came from.
Dude, they were so messed up in SEG. I mean, that sport was tanking.
Yeah, they said Art Davie, when he got elected to the UFC Hall of Fame, he showed up like in an old Eagle Talon, from like in 91, 92.
Wow.
It's like everyone made money except, him, and he was...
Geez, that's sad to see, man. Yeah. He was there. He knew it was... He started it, really. I mean,
yeah, he really did. Yeah, and he put it all together, which, I mean, it's allowed you to see the world, man.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%, man. And people don't... that is one thing that I feel bad about, and I wish the UFC done a little bit different as far as... I think there should be something for the people who built the sport up. For example, if you were a guy who fought there 15, 12 times, there should be some sort of like a pension base. Like if you play in the NFL, if you play for 4 seasons, you get a pension. And I'm not saying it should be a lot, but if you look like somebody who fought there for 12
10
times.
years. Yeah, if you're there 10, 12 years,
I'm just saying,
that's a lifetime.
Well, okay, but say like you've played 4 years in the NFL. Average fighter fights 3 times a year, so if you fight that's 12 fights. If you fight 12 fights in UFC, you are a guy who helped build it. There should be something there for you, in my opinion. I don't even care for like $2,000 a month. Something,
even $500. Okay, I mean, I know it's not much, but it's still $500.
But there's a lot of fighters.
Car payment.
There's fighters who are broke down now and fought way too long because they didn't have anything. I wish they had something to fall back on. Like I said, I have the fire department. They don't have that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
You're lucky, man.
I wish like a Mark Coleman or whatever, who probably fought a little longer than he should because he's beat up. Exactly. All those guys who helped build the sport don't have anything from it now. I wish they would have kind of helped those guys who didn't quite make it like that.
Yeah.
I think one of the scariest things about fighting is, some of the guys that they start slurring their words and they start kind of getting a little slow. Everybody sees it except them. So it's like you think, oh no, even they know that there's some issues here, but they don't. Like they're completely oblivious to it. That's one of the sacrifices that these guys make for us, for our entertainment.
Right. Sure. I mean, and it does kind of bother me when people try and like sue for that type of thing, because I'm like, man, you can't tell me. I've known this was bad for me. Exactly, I knew it was bad for me the whole time. Am I willing to do that in order to get out in time? I mean, it's tough to get out in time, but that's why I retired early. And that's why I was lucky. I had people like Pat McPherson and Keith Palmer. I remember Keith would always tell me, he's like, Chris, we're not going to drive this car till the wheels fall off. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, they cared about you, man.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's always,
and you listen, too, though.
I always told him, if you tell me I'm done, I'm done. Mm-hmm. Because that's how it has to be.
So what was your motivation?
What, to fight?
Yeah. I mean, where did it all come from, really?
I just my desire to compete. Just a desire. If you... Well, not really compete, but like you get in there and there's nothing like from the wrestling standpoint. It's almost like not an alpha male, but like a primal thing. Where like I'm going to dominate this other person my size, and I'm another grown man, and I'm gonna overpower. I'm gonna beat this guy. I'm putting him on his back. Well, here it's more. I'm gonna hit this guy. I'm gonna just. There's nothing more pure than I'm gonna be tougher than this guy. Yeah. And when you can go in there, and especially when you can be in there with a really tough. One of the best athletes in the world, you can mentally break them and beat them. I mean, that's a very good feeling, especially as like a goal-oriented person. Oh, when I'm a goal-oriented person, I know in 3 months, this is my goal. This is what I have to do. And I do everything for the next 3 months to build up to that goal that one night and put myself in my peak performance. And I go out there and I beat the best guy in the world. There's no feeling like it. I mean, there's nothing you can get. And if you can bottle that or put it in a pill form, you'd be a very rich man. So that's his... and for the next week after a fight, I'm like, not here. I'm a little level down, but I'm still on a high. And then the next week it's a little bit lower. And then eventually it goes on here and you go, okay, I need to do that again. I need to get up to that high. Yeah. And conversely, when you lose, you're really low. I mean, you want a redemption. So a lot of those fighters you see, they keep coming back. They're chasing that high that they want to get. It's just like a drug addict. It's so 100%. It's so hard. Once you do it, it's hard to stop doing. And people don't realize how difficult it is. I remember I was talking to Joe Rogan after one of my fights, after like I'd retired and I was there like corner Mitrione, and I was like, man, I feel like I should be doing something here. I feel like I should be competing, this is...
Or involved, yeah.
And he was like, well, it'll probably always feel like that some. Hopefully just keep getting less and less and less. And I was like, okay, yeah. And then it does, but it's still tough, I mean? That's why I came back and did some bare knuckle and stuff, but... I don't know. It's tough.
Right. Yeah, that's who was the hardest opponent in the UFC for you? Was it Koscheck? Was it Hughes? Parisian. That's what Parisian was on fire.
You fought like a lot of who's who. I mean,
it was almost like they were trying to get you hurt.
Yeah, like someone didn't like you.
Yeah.
Like, we work this out.
This son of a bitch, let's get him. No, you know what? Like, they were all tough in different ways. Like, Hughes was really tough as far as, like, just hold me down very, very heavy. Like,
how was his squeeze?
Like, extremely tough. I remember as soon as I thought I had him in a really good guillotine right at the beginning. I was like, I'm going to submit this dude. I had him really tough, and I remember how good he was. Like, he held my legs, and he wouldn't let me get my right leg, no, my left leg around him. So I got the right leg, but I couldn't extend him because I had his neck, and I couldn't push his hips away because he had my leg.
That's such a chess move.
And so, so people don't realize what's going on. All he's doing is holding this leg down and pin it to the ground. So it's like, I can't push him away. And so I had him. If I could just got that up, I think the fight's over. And I still had it tight. He didn't like it, but eventually he wore it down. I remember thinking, I'm just wasting arm strength. I let it go. He got right to side mount, and I remember he reared up and tried to throw an elbow, and I re-guarded him immediately. He never reared up again. Like, he knew if he reared up, I was going to re-guard. So he would just very methodically and slowly kind of pass and hold me down, throw little punches like that and little elbows. That's all he'd do. And he'd wait till there was hardly any time left to try a move, and I'd reverse him and get on top. And there was a couple of times. I remember once I got a reversal in the middle of the round, but I went immediately for a submission, and he just played position. I knew it was right after he lost his title to St. Pierre, and I'd lost to Sarah. So I'm thinking, if I go out there and beat this guy, I'm going to get my title fight. And he was thinking the same thing. So he didn't want to. I remember I came in, I threw a big combo at him right away, and I saw his face. He's like, nope. Took me down. I'm not going to trade with this guy. So, but he did a good job of just holding me down. He did what he had to do to win, but it wasn't.
He didn't take a lot of risks.
Oh, none. He didn't want to do any risks. He didn't want to.
His in-cage intelligence, though, like his IQ was very, very high.
Well, like I said, I knew I had a great choke on him, and I thought I had it. But he just knew enough to go, okay, Chris needs to get his left leg around me to win. I'm going to stop it, and he did. I was like, damn, he stopped it. You know what I mean? And every time I would get on top, I'd try and go for a submission. Like, I tried to put him in the same one that he submitted GSP with him the first time they fought. Like, he went for that Kimura, and I stepped over, and he was out. I was like, damn, I should have known he was going to know this coming, but I had to try it. As soon as he grabbed my arm, I was like, I'm going. And that was when I was like, I'm going for knockouts or submission phase. I'm like, I don't care. I'll lose the decision, but I'm not going to lose it because I didn't try it.
Now, did you ever go up there and train with those guys at Militich?
No.
I heard those sessions up there were brutal. I heard it broke. Just grown men left there crying.
That was people. I don't think anybody right now knows the appreciation of how tough Militich camps were. I mean, those were the best guys in the world. I mean, they had about 3 of the 4 champs.
I think, unfortunately, Pat couldn't differentiate between a child's class and a woman's cardio kickboxing class and a UFC title fight, training session.
That's why it turned into just a fider's gym. Everybody was tough there. They didn't have too many cardio kicks.
A lot of holes in the walls.
Yelling at women, get up, I'm sorry, I'm bleeding.
Yeah. Pat knew one gear.
Apart from your boxing career in the UFC, who do you think hit you the hardest?
Not boxing included?
No, do not include boxing in this one. UFC, MMA, who hit you the hardest?
Robbie Lawler.
Really?
Holy shit.
I wouldn't want to take one of those.
No, it'd make you lose.
I mean, like I said, that's one of the few times. I think that's the only time in MMA I can remember being knocked down with a punch.
Yeah, but you got right back up.
Yeah, it didn't really hurt me. I mean, here's what happened. I started landing some punches. I stepped up. I got my hip squared to him, and he hit me, and I had nothing behind me. So I mean, that's why it didn't really hurt me. You could tell because I clap on the way. But I mean, it was a good punch. It didn't have to knock me down. I've been knocked down a couple of times, but usually with knees.
This guy got hit by Robbie Lawler and said, just got right back up.
Like I said, it was just. I don't know. I think I got, you ever like Homer Simpson syndrome? Where I got why me? We got that big thick skull or something. Yeah. I don't know. I've been hit a lot, and luckily for me, I don't understand. Like, I'd like to think it's just my mental toughness, but I think there's some kind of a genetic thing where you just. Some guys get knocked out quicker. Some guys don't. I mean, I do always have in my mind, I'm not going to let myself get knocked out or submitted, and I think that helps. But I think at some level there is this. Luckily, the gods touched me when I was born. Or my parents.
I asked you the question, and immediately you responded with Robbie Lawler.
So I mean,
I wasn't even thinking about it. You know what I mean?
I remember I got hit pretty good by a couple of. Dan Hardy hit me pretty hard. I remember
that was a nice exit for you.
It was great. I loved it. Couldn't ask for any more.
You were an underdog in that fight. I think on the books, and I remember like talking to Palmer. He's like, "Dude, he's winning this fight," and we were both like, "Yeah."
Hey, win, lose or draw, you probably would have called it quits at that.
I'd already gave him my resignation before at the weigh-in.
That's phenomenal.
That was a tough part. I remember. Here's what happened. I remember before that, I'd won like 4 in a row. I was really looking for a title fight, and I was getting ready to fight Carlos Condit. And I remember about a month and a week before, I tore my meniscus. I remember I was thinking, I don't think I've ever told anybody this story really, because I don't like to make excuses for stuff. But anyway, so I went to the doctor and I was like, I didn't know I tore it. It was swollen real big. I said, you need to drain my knee. I got a fight coming. And he's like, well, you tore your meniscus. I'm like, yeah. How do you know? You haven't even done the MRI. He's like,
could you glue it?
And he was like, yeah. He was like, well, I'm pretty sure you did. I said, well, can you drain it? He goes, I'll drain it, but then we'll get you an MRI. He drained it. He did an MRI the next day, right back big. I said, damn, I think he's right. So he said, you didn't tear it.
This doctor is right.
He said, yeah. How do you know?
You didn't lie to me.
He said, you tore it. He said, let's do surgery. I said, no, I got to fight. He said, I'll do real minor. We'll just cut out 20%. We'll get it ready for the fight. I said, all right. So I go.
How far out is this?
A month and a day before I had surgery. So a month and a day before my fight.
There goes your cardio.
No, so I woke up and they go, we had to take the whole thing out. I was like, yeah, I thought you need a meniscus. So apparently they're like tonsils. They're just useless. I don't know what they're doing. So on my right knee, no meniscus. No, it's my left knee. But anyway, so I was like, all right, still fighting Carlos. And I was like, okay.
Which is, he was
but I'm like,
murderer.
It's a stand-up fight. He doesn't try to take anybody down. So I'm like, we're just going to stand and bang.
He kicks to the body a lot, dude.
Yep.
He murders your...
so I'm like, this is going to be a good fight. And it's a fight I'd already supposed to have before, but I had blew my ACL. So I was like, I really wanted this fight. So I was like, all right. And I thought whoever won this fight is probably getting a title fight. So I was like, all right, I'm in.
I'm sorry. I take it kind of didn't know about your surgery then, right?
I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell UFC. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody. So then, I come back to the gym. I have to take another week off and not really do anything. So about
you just do upper body then, or would you do
lifting? I couldn't run, couldn't do anything. So 3 weeks out from the fight, I go back to the gym and I start doing like real light stand up stuff. And about 2 weeks out, I start doing more stand up. And then about a little over a week before I left, they go, Chris, I got a phone call from Joe Silva. I was like, oh shit. He's like, Carlos hurt his knee. He's out.
So I get my show money, right?
And I was just like, and they're like, we got another opponent for you. And I was like, all right, a pure wrestler, just a wrestler. And I was just like, and I hadn't done 1 minute of ground.
They wouldn't give you an option?
I didn't tell him that I hurt, because I didn't want to afterwards.
But he's trying to get like a same style, though,
I know, but they said that was all they could do with a week's notice.
Who was it?
Brian Ebersol.
Dude, Ebersol's one of those guys, man.
He's a rider, and I knew, and I was like, as soon as they said, I was like, man, it's gonna be a tough. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's gonna be a tough fight. But I don't, in my head, I have like not a sickness, but I can't turn down a fight. Like I feel like if I want to be the best guy, if I want to be the best guy in the world, to be able to beat anybody, no matter what, and yeah. But I mean, I was already set up. I was already fired, and I was like, man, I can't after this. Like, well, I had knee surgery too. Why didn't you tell me before that? And I was like, I didn't want to, so I just said, forget it, I'll do it. So I went there and I won the first round, lost the next two because I was out of gas.
The thing with Ebersol is there's like an old boxing guy, turn of the century boxing guy, the real McCoy. And it was just, is this him or is this his friend showing up doing a dive? Because when he shows up, he's a world beater, but when he shows up for a payday, he comes in and just lays down. Ebersol, I think, is the modern day version of that.
So my point of telling you that whole story was like after that fight, I remember I went home and I was like, look, I lost. I was like, man, I lost 1 4. I was near a title. I was like, forget it. So I was like, my knee, I got to rehab it a little bit. So that was the first time ever. I took about 3 weeks off and I started going to rehab, and I just didn't go to the gym afterwards. So I went to my kids' soccer games, my basketball games, my kids' gymnastics and cheerleading and stuff. And I remember after that, I got a phone call, and Joe's like, hey, we want you to fight, Dan Hardy in the main event. And I was like, all right, and I remember I went to the gym the next day. I started to go, and that was the first time ever I felt guilty. Because I had been to my kids' things, and I started feeling like people would be like, "Well, Chris, what are you doing here?" I remember feeling like the shame that I wasn't really being a good dad. So I remember started like incredible level of shame was coming over me when I started going back to the gym because, like, at least before I didn't know. Like, now I've been caught in this same routine every day of doing this stuff, and now all of a sudden I started feeling guilty. And it was the first time it ever happened. And I was just like, I didn't feel good at the gym that day. And I remember I came home, and I was just I went and talked to my wife, and we were like, I was like, I can't do it like this anymore. So we said, this is going to be my last fight. And that gave me the freedom. So she was like, you're going to win your last fight. So it's like, I'm going to give everything I can because this is my last fight.
Did your kids show up?
Oh, my kids came to the fight.
Did they come to all your fights?
No, they never came to hardly any of them. But so after that, I felt like I could go to the gym real hard and do whatever because I was like, I got to win this fight. And so that's kind of how it worked out. I was able to go there. And
it was an upset, man.
Well, and like the beauty of it was people were kind of pissing me off because they're like, oh, man, he's really good on his feet. You better try to take him down. I'm like, my top liver. I'm not taking him down.
I've got a few fights here. Have you seen
me trying to take anybody down? I'm not taking him down. So that was a good thing, as I felt like I was able to like beat him on my feet for the first, almost whole 3 rounds. And he shoots in on me. At the end of the 3rd round, I choked him and got a fight of the night and sub of the night. And
that's
it was
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's the way to ride out, too.
And not a lot of people can do that.
Well, and like I said, I'd already wrote my letter. I handed it to him at the weigh-ins, saying, I'm done. I appreciate what you've done for me, but I got to be around my family. And so you want to win your last fight, but you already laid it out there. I didn't know if I was going to, and I was glad it ended like that, so it was nice.
That's you know what, though? You set it in stone, and that was it. So, Chris, outside of your MMA career and stuff like that, what are you doing now business-wise? Why don't we talk about that? It's kind of why you're here. So.
Yeah. Man, I got a lot going on. I did a couple bare-knuckle fights. Been doing some commentary for the BKFC, which is really, man, it's funny. I remember I was watching on the internet. I'm looking through some stuff, and I see Joe Riggs' bare-knuckle fight. I said, what the hell's wrong with Joe? I said, this dude's an idiot. What's wrong? And I watched. I was like, I'm going to watch this. And after about a round and a half, I go, okay, I think I'm going to do this one time. I'm going to do it once. I'm going to get a hold of Joe and see how I get a hold of these people. And
you got in Europe. You went out to Europe with Jim Freeman Dove. Went
over in Europe and then went. But I hadn't fought in like 6 years. It took me a while to knock the rust off, and I got it, And then I come back here and I try to get it legalized in Indiana. They laugh at me pretty much. And never.
Joanna Allen's actually a fan of it too, though.
Oh, it wasn't her. She definitely wanted it to happen. It was the legality team part, and they're like, I remember this direct quote, Chris, Indiana doesn't want to be the first state to do anything. I was like, okay. So,
you know what? I think we can both agree in a testosterone driven sport, when you have a woman that's in charge of the athletic commission, a lot of times, people will just kind of,
she's on it. She's good.
Dude, she's amazing.
She's great.
She's one of the best one of the best I've ever dealt with. Yeah.
Her and Brian Dunn probably be the 2 best.
Yeah, I've never dealt with him, but Joanna,
he's a fighter, so he gets it more than most.
Okay. Yeah, where's he at?
He's in Nebraska. He's in commission.
Isn't Guy Mezger doing something with the commission of Texas?
I don't know. Is he? I hope so. We need fighters in there because they understand it a lot more.
But Joanna's understanding of the fight game and gray areas is like none I've ever dealt with. Yeah. I mean, just a brilliant fight mind.
However, she still has the legality portion. She can't do what she wants. Yeah. She has so they said no, and eventually Wyoming said yes, and they asked me if I do some around here. So I had a couple with the BKFC. I had 2 fights with those guys in. And
Paulie Malignaggi was like, I need to know what he was talking about. I thought you did a great job, man.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. Was there ever talk about you and Joe Riggs going at it?
Well, they did fight. Joe...
Not in bare knuckle.
Oh, in bare knuckle.
Right.
Okay.
Well, first of all, he's a different weight class than me. But they asked us if we'd fight each other. We're like, hell no, man. We've already done that. We're buddies. There's enough people to fight. We're not fighting each other, man. I like Joe too much anyway. We already did that.
Man, that's cool.
But
your fight in Mexico, he was screaming from the ring.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he's.
I could hear him.
And I'm sitting next to him, and he's just like, man. I hate watching this guy fight. We're real good friends. It was like I was talking to your wife. It really hurts me that he's in there. I'm like, well, he's been in there a few times. I think you can handle himself.
No, he's a good dude. One of my good buddies. So besides that, but I got something called the B2 Fight Series that I've been working with quite a bit. Hey, there we go. Finally got it out there.
Yeah, so B2 Digital.
Loving it, man. Loving it. I mean, and this is an idea kind of that's been around for a long time, but it's never been able to come to fruition.
Palmer and I used to talk about this in 2006, 2007.
And it's a great idea, but back then nobody really had the means to do it.
Yeah.
And basically what it is a minor league
a feeder system.
Feeder system, exactly.
Which is necessary.
Like in baseball, you got the single A, double A, triple A. This is all three of those in one for baseball, but this is for fighting.
Well, I think the problem on a regional scene is that there's an audience there, but it's a set audience. It's not like the local regional shows getting 15, 20,000 people there. They're getting 2,000 people if they're lucky. Oh, yeah. So the fights that people need in order to prove that they belong in the next level, they're not affordable. Mm-hmm. And they're not. They're not affordable, and it's necessary to have. Like, if you look at the business model, it's certainly something I believe in. For sure. And Chris got me involved a few months ago. I met him in Biloxi, and we had talked about it, and signed me right up. He introduced me to Greg Bell, who's in charge over there, and it's a business model that's necessary that I absolutely believe in.
Me too, because like I said, it seemed for years, the UFC especially, they were almost punishing the feeder systems. Like, they would sue them for using the cage, and they were just always against them. Like,
they cherry pick.
What are you doing?
They cherry pick. Like, I had Josh Shockley on one of my cards. Yeah. The UFC wanted him, and it's just like, well, if I refuse a guy his dream, which is to fight in the UFC, I look like a jerk.
For sure.
Which we just saw with King of the Cage.
Yeah.
And then, if they take him from me, well, that's a monster ticket seller around here. I got to fill that spot and sell those tickets, and I can't do that. The right thing to do would be for the UFC to say, hey, man, here's the contract. We'll fill the spot for you. We even pay for the opponent to fight. They'll fill that spot, but they don't do that. Yeah. But boxing does.
Yeah.
Because you can't kill the roots of a tree. Right. At some point you got to say, hey, man, we got to water the roots.
They've been doing that for years. And
it's not a healthy business.
No, you got to help the people who are trying to get you there. And that's what this is. We're trying to get amateurs. We're trying to get low-level pros. And we're trying to get AAA pros who can go next fight in the UFC.
What's the business model right now for the UFC? Are they just calling up, the gym coaches?
Nah, they look at records and gyms. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it is gyms, like I said, the big gyms.
Respectfully so.
Because there's about 5 gyms that they can just, they can call. There's always going to have good guys, up-and-coming, hungry guys who are going to be good from there.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing. There's coaches, and then there's poachers.
For sure.
A lot of these big gyms, they're poachers.
Yeah, they're taking the guys from the Midwest or wherever who have done well, and then they're getting their guys to come out there.
Faraz Zahabi, love the guy. I don't know how many Canadians are in his gym that are fighting in the UFC. I think the overwhelming majority are people that travel, and respectfully so. The guy's a brilliant mind.
Yeah, brilliant in mind.
But look where you're at. You got brought up from your first fight all the way to your last. You were a coached fighter.
Sure.
That's more difficult than poaching.
100%. And that's what that's what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about Keith them saying, Chris, we're not driving this till the wheels fall off. They had a vested interest in me as a person, and I trust them and they trusted me. If you're poaching somebody, you're there just money, and you have to know that if you're willing to go wherever, if you're out looking for the magic bullet because I lost here, I'm going to go to this other trainer. You're not their guy. They didn't bring you up. You're a paycheck to them. You're a dollar sign. So they don't care about you. I hate to be honest with you, but that's a reality situation.
Well, Jackson's has been running into that a lot with Cerrone and Diego Sanchez lately. I mean,
they're both.
They're looking like the next, Colby Covington's fighting Robbie Lawler with the
American Top Team.
They're both at the same gym.
Yeah,
and Masvidal's right there too. Yeah. It's like those 3 guys right there, all in the same gym, and it's like. It's a difficult situation, but I'm glad at least they're fighting each other.
Yeah.
But there certainly seems there could be a conflict of interest. I don't know.
And that's what you're saying. We're getting into this place where there's 5 or 8 mega gyms where that's what we're talking about, And it'd be nice if it could be
more talent.
It'd be more equally distributed, and that's what we're trying to do here. Because think about it, where in the Midwest are people able to come up and really do too much at the next level? There's not a lot of big hubs, but if we can start putting on more legitimate fights here, and
with a ranking system, a legit ranking system, a traveling belt,
exactly, which is what B2 is trying to develop.
Yeah,
it's going to happen. It's just taking.
It's a slow rollout.
You got to crawl before you can run. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a slow rollout, and
it's a great concept.
Dude, it's a phenomenal concept. It's really the only thing. If you're a promoter, you're dying on the vine right now. You're just waiting for your audience to disappear, and hey, man, it was a nice shot. It's over. You know, and that's the reality. Unless you got something like B2 Digital backing you up or a money guy, but what money people know how to make? They wouldn't even. There's no money to be made.
They don't get anything back from it. You know what I mean? Like if you're a money guy, you better just like the sport, and this is your philanthropy to help grow the sport.
You're a car dealership, or you sell houses. You hope to sell 1 or 2 houses to people in the audience, but at the end of the day, you're dying on the vine.
Exactly.
You know, you need. It's like when you bundle everybody up, which is what's happening, and the promoters start working to one another, and they respect territories and make the proper matchups. Only good things can come out about it.
100%. And I think, you know, like we talk about, it's been tried before, but those people ran it like a bunch of ass clowns.
Well, even like the IFL, for instance. Like, I mean, it's kind of like a bastardized version of it. You know, to a certain degree, it's not what it is, but at the end of the day, it's kind of run in that manner. If all it needs is just a little bit of tweaking, some love, understanding of people that are from the sport, and you can't miss.
I think so. Or else I wouldn't be involved doing all this. I mean, right now we're doing not as much in the summer, just kind of setting stuff up. But come the fall, there's every weekend there's fights. Every weekend there's fights. You know, in different states, we got about 10 different states we're doing fights in now, and we're trying to get the best fighters from these different states. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Could you explain what B2? We talked about it a while, but you haven't exactly explained what it is. Can you explain what?
Sure. Okay, B2 is basically, you can say Greg Bell has the B2 Digital, it's got the B2 Fight Series, and what we've done, or what he's done, is he's bought up Coliseum Combat, he's bought up 3 different promotions in different areas.
Myself.
Yes. Pinnacle.
Do we make the announcement? Yeah, Pinnacle Combat from Iowa's on board?
Yep. So we've got 4 different organizations, and they're all going into different states. Trying to get the best fighters from all these different places. And what we want to do is, at least once a year, bring them all together and have from the ranking from all these different organizations and have the top guys fight. And we want those top guys to go to the next level. That's kind of the goal right there. So we want all these fighters from all these Midwest states to know, hey, if you want to get to the next level, this is the way to do it right here. And you can be an amateur, and once you do good enough, you're going to go pro. And once you become pro, you got to get in the ranking system. And then once you become one of the top 2 guys ranked, we're going to give you the opportunity to make it to the next level.
Well, here's the thing. Fighters are not very organized people.
Terrible. They're terrible. Right. So, gym guys are not, they're not good either.
No, right. Yeah. So like when we do something like this, you got to have an order, and you got to be organized, and you got to have a direction. When you do a cage fight, you've got a bout order, and you also have to tell a story. Well, when you want to get somebody to the next level, where it's Bellator, ONE FC, UFC, when you want to get somebody there has to be discipline as well in regards to like coaching and where they fight and why they fight. Like if you're a gym and you put guys on cards where the cards only have amateurs on it, they never do a pro event, you're wasting your time. If you don't have a pro event, you're not even a real organization. And you shouldn't be sending any guys there, and that's a fact, and people aren't talking about that, but that's reality. And when everybody gets on the same page and they have like a vision and understanding, well, here is your pathway, here it is, it's all laid out. All you got to do is just get ready this day, and you're gone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people
Why would you say no to that?
I mean, people don't realize. I remember after you fight in the UFC for so long, it's like it's set up and it's organized and it's structured. All that's done for you.
You don't even need a manager once you get to the UFC.
No, but I mean,
because they tell you who you're going to fight.
I forget, going back earlier. That wasn't the way it was coming up. It was way different. So it's still, I don't want to say the wild, wild west, but it's still just different out there. It's like
it's evolving.
Yeah, but you don't really know. Makes it so much easier for people. Like I said, this is your path right here. You can, start right here and end here and then go to the next level. This is everything you need, right? This is single A, double A, triple A. This is all of it right here if you need it.
On the same card.
Yeah.
I mean, your main event. You know what? That's significant. So. I believe, having talked, the thing that I really like about Greg is that he listens. Initially you might go, well, let me think about it. He spends the night, he calls me up the next day. Yeah, I think it's a sound idea. So we're dealing with somebody that's a money guy on the money side that's willing to listen to some fight guys and have a fundamental understanding of, all right, well, this is the idea in order to get here. And he's just like, yeah, okay.
Well, the beauty of it, like you said, not only is he a money guy, but this is a thing that could come because this is a publicly traded stock.
Yes.
I think a lot of people realize that.
It's BTDG. It's a penny stock right now.
Yeah, but I mean, still, that money is being raised through that to pay for a lot of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a great thing when I really look for that to go up because I think people are going to, I think as soon as the pieces are being put in place right now. It hasn't even been released.
Everyone's legit that's involved.
Exactly. So I think this is going to do some great things. I mean, I'm excited for it. And I like I said, you don't want somebody who's going to keep throwing money at this. But when you get something like, with the stock market behind it and you can raise money that way, that's something that can really turn this into something big.
There's a lot of people that believe in it. And
I'm one of them,
Yeah, as well as I. And it's like, I've got a few cousins that, play the stocks, and they don't understand the fight game. But, like, when I brought them through it, they're just looking at me going, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
I'm like, I mean, it's going to work. It's going to, I believe in it. It's going to work. So, I mean, not to rewind, but, like, with your family and stuff like that, obviously, I mean, you love your children.
Sure.
Did you guys ever have like a little round table in regards to their thoughts about your fighting, or?
The weirdest part was when I did retire, because I retire and then I start, okay, I'm back, I'm here. And I had kids in high school, they weren't just like, I didn't just jump right back into the mix. Like I didn't miss a beat, it was kind of like, you ain't been around in 10 years. What are you talking about? It's like I wasn't.
How hard was
they didn't act. I mean, they didn't say that, but that was like the thing. Like
that's also the age too, though, man.
Well, that too, but I realized like little things my wife had always taken care of. I hadn't taken care of that stuff, so it was just hard for me to like. It took a little adjustment period, and I had to sit down. I remember saying, "Hey, look, I apologize. I tried to explain I had to do these things so you could go to gymnastics. The
roof over
I don't think you understand how much cheerleading costs. $1,500 a month or a year just for your uniforms. You know what I mean? That's not counting your personal, all these different things.
Yeah.
It was a lot of money to go do that stuff. And
travel, everything.
And Mama didn't work, so I was paying for it. And that was what me being gone was. That was my role as a dad. But at the same time, I wish I could have been around to do it, but I couldn't. So I had to explain that to him. And be like, hey, I'm going to be here. And I'm not going to try and micromanage or tell you what I'll do, but I'm here to be back in part of your life. And that took a little more. It wasn't like I'm used to them being little kids and being a part of that life, and then all of a sudden they have a different life, and I wasn't the bigger part of it as I thought I was. You know what I mean? It was
look what you're comparing yourself to. You're comparing yourself to your wife that was there full time, and that job, a stay-at-home mom, is. I think one of the most difficult things a human being can do. And it's much harder than whatever it is anyone in this room has done. A stay-at-home mom is incredibly important.
To be good at it, you're right. Yeah. And what you're saying is true, however, that didn't help how I was feeling afterwards, knowing that, seeing the truth is how that I wasn't as part the same reason I was feeling guilty before, because I hadn't been doing what I should have been. And so just kind of the realization that how to work your way back in was a little more difficult than I had anticipated. I guess I hadn't even thought about it.
Well, look at the other option, though. Both parents working?
No, that was never going to happen. I would never do that. But I mean,
like you guys would both be feeling that same way.
I know I did the right thing, but it's still, I always tell people this, in some situations, there is no good answer, no great answer. For example, I'm always saying this. If I'm a general and there's a war and I go, hey, we want to take that hill. If we go straight at it, we're going to lose 100 men. And if we flank it, we're going to lose 50 men. What's the best answer? Lose 50 men. Is that a great? I mean, you're still losing 50 men. It's not. There is no great answer. There's the best answer, and I think I did the best answer. But it doesn't mean I didn't get everything I wanted out of it. There's no great answer. There's only levels of good. You know what I mean? Or bad, however you want to look. I mean, I did the best thing, but it didn't give me. There were still bad things about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
Huh. So with your new involvement, like on the administrative side of fighting. Is it like kind of changed some of your feelings, or have you always kind of?
I'm always seeing myself as a fighter first. So my first and foremost concern is like I'm trying to take care of them. I'm trying to help them get to where they want, because they're the ones out there, blood, sweat, tears, and doing all that stuff. I want to help them, but at the same time, I'm trying to explain to them from the business aspect of it. You know what I mean? Because I was, a great thing I watched it. If you want to look it up, it's when the UFC almost goes out of business. back, when they were like $44 million in debt. Did you watch that? They're $44 million in debt. And I remember at this point, this is right before the Ultimate Fighter goes, so probably 2005 or 2004. And I'm one of the guys who's saying, I deserve more money. I want more money, and they were down $44 million. They can't give me more money.
That's a hard thing to ask for, man.
But but here's the thing. Like, I remember when I fought Robbie Lawler, I thought fight of the night.
Was you like $2,000?
$2,000. They like beat Pete Spratt. They come back for Tiki. They go, yeah, $2,000. They go, hold on a second. I just fought for $2,000. They go, yeah, this is what the fight pays, $2,000. They go, I'm not doing it. And they go, okay. And they hung up, and I said, damn. I called him back 5 minutes later. I'll take the fight for $2,000.
How about $2,000 and one?
Yeah, exactly. But
that's my final offer.
Yeah, and they say no. Okay, $2,000. So I knew, but looking back at it, now I was like, that makes sense. I mean, everybody, all these people, they don't. Just like, I don't want to get too political right here, but this is going to get weird. With this women's soccer right now, they're saying we deserve more money, and I just saw something. I don't have to look into it to see if it's true, but like the men. World Cup soccer makes like
7%. I think I heard.
No, but they bring in like $5 billion. The women's bring in $130 million,
which is still significant.
But my point is, if you $5 billion, $130 million, the men are going to make more money. I'm sorry, you can't pay them as much if with all the other costs. I mean, it's the women are getting a bigger percentage of a smaller pie, but that's just like me saying, if I fight at the local show, I should make $20 million or $20,000 bonuses.
McGregor just fought Floyd Mayweather. I'm fighting here in Indy. Why? Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing. You don't get the same money out of there. The women aren't getting nearly as much money throughout the world as the men. So I get why but people don't think it's fair.
And I want them to all make more money.
Me too.
But at the end of the day, there's also reality. Yeah, like it's almost like equality of opportunity, which is important. If everyone gets the same opportunity, man, 100%. But equality of outcome. Well, how about, Chris, you and I are going to fight, and I didn't really put it a day in the gym, but we got to make it a draw because, it's not fair for me. Like, I kind of want to get a win, even though I know you're better than me. It's like equality of outcome is just, that's the participation award type generation type speak.
The reality of this situation, like I said, we're trying to explain to these guys, who we're putting on these fights for is we're trying to get to the next level. I'm sorry, we don't have the money to pay you what you deserve. This is what the fight can pay, and we're helping you. We're going to give you opportunity. I can't give you the payout that you might deserve, but it's not reality. If we put this on, we're losing money, and we can't continue to be in business. You know what I mean? So trying to explain that to these guys when they see Conor McGregor, they're like, oh, I get that, but maybe when we're trying to help you get to you, we can be Conor McGregor.
I kind of had a whole bunch of prior opportunities before, and actually. I know we're almost at the 2-hour mark, but the one coach that I have seen consistently that beats into his fighters, you're going to argue over $250 when as long as you get this and 2 other wins, you can get to the big show. Like this isn't this isn't the hill you want to die on. And Duke Rufus is one of those guys that really understands the sports from multiple angles. Like I don't deal with him often, but the few times I have, it's just. We're speaking the same language.
Good. That's important. That's very important.
Yeah. Well, that's good, man. And color commentary. I know for the B2 Digital series, you're also doing a little color commentary for it.
Yeah. Whenever I can. I mean, I like to get in there and talk. Just kind of break down what's going on with the fighters. I know a lot of the fighters like to hear from somebody who's fought, at the next level. And I fought in the UFC 20 times, so. Usually, I like to hear what I have to say. I like to think so. I've been hit a few times, but I haven't forgot that much. So I like to kind of break down what they're doing. Anytime I get in there and talk, I love it.
Indianapolis has got kind of like a crazy scene. Like it's not a real big city, but look at you got you got Godsey, you got Jake O'Brien, you got Matt Mitrione. Yeah. Like there's like a consortium of talent there.
Yeah, it's been we've been pretty fortunate, man. Just like we got a boxer right now named Frank Martin, national Golden Glove champ. I think he's 9-0. He's probably going to be a world champ at some point. Wow. So Layman Brewster, I was talking about earlier, knocked out Klitschko, former world champ. He comes to our gym. I mean, we got a lot of tough people out there.
Yeah, Carlos Diaz has got a gym in Indianapolis too. Like there's some talent there, man.
Yeah. For like you said, I mean, we're nothing in. Compared to Chicago, how big you
New
guys
York,
are.
California, Florida, you guys are just a smaller Midwest city.
something is not like the other.
Yeah, Northwest Indiana's always had a real good wrestling scene as well. I think that's where a lot of it comes from. Like, Indy's always been like a top-notch like wrestling state.
Yeah, but you guys got some tough guys up here on the other side of the state line right there in Indiana.
It's amazing just like how the sport has like adapted, like even like wrestling and stuff. Yeah. But Chris, we're 2 hours in, man. So we got to wrap this.
Are you serious?
Yeah, you got another 2 more in you?
Yeah.
That flew by. I thought it was like an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, here, who are you watching in the UFC now? I'm assuming you still watch it.
Of course I do, man.
Who's your favorites right now?
You know what, man? And it's not just because this last fight. I've been saying one guy who I would not want to tangle with right now is Masvidal. That dude is
Tony Ferguson too.
Well, Tony Ferguson. That's who I've said for a while. I said if there's one go, I think who could be Habib, it would be him.
100%.
And I'd love to see that fight. And I'm disappointed it didn't happen before, but. You know what else really, even this last fight, this is funny, like I'm still trying to learn as much as I can. And he comes in and when those like straight kicks he was throwing this last fight against Cowboy, way more than normal. And I started doing that a little bit and it really throws people off. That distancing, it throws off, it doesn't hurt them, but you're kicking them with these little shots in the stomach and then it opens up your punches, and because they're looking at your feet and these punches are landing. Then I'm just trying to get some other guys to use that I'm trying to help train right now. So I'm not using that stuff, but I'm trying to work on it so they can learn it. But it works really well.
How often are you in the gym still?
I try and get in there at least 3 days a week. It just depends when I can. But I try to get in there as much as I can. I mean, I don't feel good if I'm not in there. Like I said, I just had wrist surgery, so I'm not doing as much. I'm kind of gimpy in there, but I can still do some stuff. And I mean, like I said, Tony was definitely one of the guys. So I'm like, man, that dude. When is the last time he lost? It would be like 7 years or something like that.
Dude's
I don't know.
Gas tank, man.
Yeah, he just doesn't get tired. So I really like to see him fight again here soon. I think there's so many people who have just like been left out of certain spots. Like they were, interim title holder. Now they don't have anything. What's going on here? Or, how's this possible? I guess, unfortunately, the reality is UFC is caught in a weird spot right now where it is a sport, but at the same time they're trying to. They got these money fight. So. It's not like baseball or something. It's kind of a cross between like one of the baseball and like a boxing. You know what I mean? It's like you're trying to be both. It's weird.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, it's really unprofessional for me to keep asking stuff over here, but I gotta know. When he asked you who was the hardest person who ever hit you wanted to go to boxing.
Yeah.
What was the name that jumped into your head?
I got hit by a guy in a boxing match named Omar Pittman. And like Omar, I remember I was supposed to. He asked me about who hit me the hardest, and I was in I was boxing. I remember I was the TBA, 2 being outs. I was a guy named Omar Pittman, and it was TBA. I was like, TBA? I was like, yeah, I'll take that fight. And they're like, all right. And he was a guy from Philadelphia. He's a tough kid from Philadelphia.
Show. You think you're swarming them, and then they do something.
And I was like, okay. And it was like in some casino, and like, right in the Indiana-Cincinnati border right there. So I was like, okay, I'll take this fight. And I just, I was like, okay, this guy looks pretty good, and I'll fight him. And I went out there, and he had like one of the guys, the cut man from the UFC, that Leon, I can't remember the guy's name, real good, cut man. And I saw him like, oh, these guys look pretty legit. And so I go
your uniforms on.
I was like, I'm having my little shorts. So I was like, okay, I go out there to fight this guy. Like, we were going at it real good. In the first round, like, I'm a straightforward guy, boom, I come, and we bumped heads right there. If you can see that scar. My head's bleeding real bad, and they kind of stop it for a second, and my leg's a little wobbly, and round's over, I go back, and they kind of clean it up, and second round, I'm out there, I'm throwing punches, and next thing I know, I'm on the ground, and I kind of just like, what the hell's going on? I look up, and he's like, 3, 4, I was like, oh shit, it's like, kind of get back up, and he said my legs were real wobbly, and he said he stood up and started to throw the towel, and the other coach kind of grabbed him, hold on, see how Chris does, and I was wobbly for a second. This guy's trying to knock me out, and I ended up like tying him up and kind of started winning the last part of the round. And then, the next round I came out, and I knew he was better from the outside, so I made it like a dirty, nasty fight. In like right in his chest the whole time, just body punch, uppercut, just beating on his body. And about the 4th or 5th round, I started realizing, hey man, I'm starting to win this fight, and I ended up knocking him out in the 7th round, just kind of wore him out. And that was definitely one where I talked about, like, I knocked him out of the ring once, and he got back in.
Oh, God.
And I remember, just with body shots and stuff, and I remember that was one, I knocked him down in the 7th round, and he stood up, and the referee was like, step forward, he just wouldn't move. So I mentally broke that guy. And that was what I talk about. That's one of my favorite wins ever because he hit me hard. And that was the only fight I could never really think I probably got a concussion from because afterwards, if I'd close my eyes, I'd start to fall down. But I won that fight, and that dude just clocked me so good. I remember watching later on ESPN, he was fighting. He was fighting George Pascal or whatever, a really good French guy. And the guy was undefeated. And this Pittman almost knocked him out. I mean, he was a very good fighter and one of my favorite boxing wins because I had to go through a lot of adversity, got knocked down, and came back to win the fight.
Man, you learn a lot about yourself in fights like
that. And that's a scary thing, to be honest with you, because I feel like no matter what, I'm not. I'd hurt myself before I would quit, and I know that now. I'd have no problem if something bad happened. I couldn't quit. There's
Homer always said you had a real high pain tolerance.
Oh, for sure. And I'm just too stubborn I'm very stubborn. I'm never going to stop no matter what. And I remember once in the gym, there's this other guy, and we were just sparring, and people keep talking about, me and him were just over there sparring. It was like 15 rounds in.
Jeez.
And Keith was like, stop it, you guys are doing it. We're just like, he kept going. I'm like, I'm not quitting.
Yeah.
He was the same way, saying, eventually they stopped us.
Angel McFreddy had a few of those.
Yeah.
Be careful with that.
And like I said, I can't back down from fights. I can't stop. I won't stop in a fight. I don't know, have some kind of sickness where I just don't want to do it. I don't know. It's a problem, but it's not. So I think it helped me get to where I am, but I think it can be a good or bad thing.
I'd say a good thing.
Well, it is good for fighting and stuff.
Yeah, right. That's excellent. Well, Chris, thanks so much.
Hey, I really appreciate you guys having me out here. It's been a lot of fun. You guys do some great things.
Cool. Thanks, brother.